This is the Carver Heights Montclair Area CRA City Commission meeting. It is 5:01 on Monday, March 13th, 2023. We'll call the meeting to order. Would you please rise for the invocation? We pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask that you grant us the wisdom and knowledge to make good decisions for the city of Leesburg tonight. We ask this in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did everybody have an opportunity to read the minutes? Can we get a motion for approval?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second. By Allison. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Jasper? Yes. Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Chairperson Berry?
Yes. Okay, moving on to section 3, the resolutions. Will someone introduce, well, it would be 3A1.
Introduce 3A1, be read by title only.
Resolution of the Carver Heights Montclair Area Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the chairperson and secretary to execute a declaration of covenants and restrictions as to the Feed the Need project in favor of Lake County and providing an effective date.
Motion for approval?
I make a motion for approval. Have questions?
Yeah. We just need a second.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Yes, I just have a few questions, please, in reference to the grant. I'm all in favor of the grant approval as well as the food project. However, I'm concerned about the location, and I don't think it should be in a residential area, and I would like to see if we could consider another location, preferably the on County Road 1115, County Road 468.
That's discussion.
Yeah, I think that's, well, the grant calls out for the location, I believe it's McCormick address, right?
Yes, 907 McCormick.
I don't think if it's the bodies want to change locations, that changing it to that address is a bad idea. It's obviously more of a commercial district. Yes. It's next to the Resource Center. And 1115, by the way, if you don't recall that address, that's the house that we purchased a year or so ago, maybe a little bit more. So it would probably need some of the same retrofitting that the other building did. So it would be something I would recommend that if that's where you go, we approve the grant with that modification and then administratively get back to the commission. So from a staff perspective, we don't have a preference, just the administrative change and wherever this body wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
I respectfully disagree with that. I think we do have approval already in the process with Lake County, and we've already approved this project for that. I think we should move forward with the project at hand. We have the money, we have the funds, and just move forward and get an architectural design and just move forward. I like the location. It's right there by Berry Park, which has adequate parking, and I think a lot of people would just benefit from that location. It's just like a central location. I think we should just move forward since we have the approval in process.
Could I ask, what was the previous location? Where?
700 block of McCormick Street, which is a residential area.
Okay, yeah, that's, yeah. Where was the first location?
On 468, right next to the Resource Center, north of the Resource Center.
Okay, north of the Resource Center.
It's that little house just to the north.
It's
the one we took in
1115.
on the property. Yeah.
1115 County Road.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that would be a commercial area for everyone to benefit, not causing any traffic issues. A right off main roads of 44 as well as Griffin Road, and convenient to not as a main source of a residential. And I mean, I just don't think of any residential area, not just District 1, Carver Heights, but I can't see a food pantry being in a residential area to be
Prior
efficient.
to, it was a commercial building. They had I think it was like a semi-repair, truck repair place right there prior to, for years. That's why I think it's okay to move forward. There's adequate parking available, and also Berry Park is right there. And like I said, this program has already been approved by Lake County, and there's so many people in need of food. As we know, as of right now, the pandemic hunger relief program has come to an end. A lot of people are in need of food. I think we should move forward. If we move the location, that's going to cause a further delay because we have to get a prior approval. We have to use additional funds to readjust the building to accommodate that. So I just feel very strongly that we just need to move forward with the program as stated, and as approved.
Excuse me. How long does the, excuse me, in your opinion, if we were to move to the 468 location, what timing, how long does that delay the project?
I really don't know. I would 30, 45 days-ish.
Okay, so
How much money do we have invested already? Architectural fees, if any? But you may say
Not much at
nothing.
all. I don't believe we have anything
Okay.
invested.
Yeah, not much at all. But right now, I just think it'll be additional delay. You see how long it's taken us now to get to this point. Moving forward. Like I said, it's just such a great need. I was reading an article the other day. People are going to lose at least $90 in their food stamp assistance program because there's such a great need. So we're moving from a pandemic crisis to a hunger crisis. The need is there. I think we should just move forward. I just strongly feel that we just need to move forward at this location. It has been approved already by the county, and we've been here before. I just think we just need to move forward at the current location.
One more question, Dr. Jasper. Was consideration taken or given to the residents in the area of
Yes.
their response and their
Yes.
feedback on it?
Yes, when Ken and I, we were working on this project prior to, yes, he went around to some of the residents that live right in close proximity to the proposed project. He asked and got consideration from those. Yes, ma'am.
I did the same research, and I actually knocked on doors of the residents. I'm 2 blocks down from that area. I'm in the 900 block of McCormick. And the feedback that I received from others, they were not even aware of it, and no, they weren't interested in having the traffic in that area. So that was my concern, as well as knowing that we're in the process of trying to rebuild our community as far as a neighborhood. And I think, well, my view is that bringing a food pantry for others to come would increase the traffic, as well as just allow for our homeless that we still have in the area that's highly populated. That would be another area because we will be feeding them as well as others coming to and from. And we're having traffic issues now on McCormick Street, and that was the concern of the residents.
Well, actually, there is like a feeding program. I think every Tuesday, Pastor Hardy, he has his feeding program in a vacant lot there, right there by Berry Park, and there's no issues there. There's a lot of people that's benefiting from his program, but I think we should just take it to another level. I have not had any problems or any issue with people saying that they were not aware of this, but we've had it approved. It's been approved, and like I said, I just think we just need to move forward. And as far as traffic, I don't think that's to be an issue because we have adequate parking with Berry Park, and there's a vacant lot a couple of vacant lots that was donated as well right there adjacent to the building as well. That's just my
And the food pantry would be open for what days and what times?
We'll have to put those guidelines in place. And also, just for the record, homeless people don't really go to the food pantry. They go to more like soup kitchens and things like that because they don't have refrigerators and stoves and things like that to store the food. This is more so for those low income, low poverty line individuals that will benefit from this as well. So it's just not the homeless. It's more than that. It's bigger than that. It's broad scope. It's bigger than that issue.
I'm in agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm totally in agreement for providing a food pantry in the area for the homeless as well, because they will too benefit
Yes.
if food is being given away. They would be the first, I would think. But I don't, again, just the location is my only concern.
I do like the resource center location next to it. I think if they're going there for food, they can go to the next door to the resource center to get other benefits, to other services. So, and I do like that it's on 468, which is a more commercial grade road.
What is the zoning on the current site next to Berry Park? Are you saying it's commercial? I heard you reference a trucking
It
operation.
has been in the past previously. I'm not sure what the zoning is currently. Do you know, Al?
I was just looking for Dan Miller, and he'll be here at
But
5:30.
my point is, it's had a commercial use in the past, is your
Yes.
point? Okay.
It has.
Mechanic shop used to be
It's
one.
been closed
Yes.
for years. It's been closed for years, though. It's been
Yeah.
closed.
That area too is kind of a little bit borderline. That south end of McCormick gets
Right
a
at
little
that
more
stop,
commercial.
you have CenturyLink
like
and then
below
school
the trail,
buses.
Exactly.
and then above the trail kind of gets a little more residential.
But there are 3 houses just adjacent, right in front, and then the houses on the side that would go straight to Berry Park. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exactly. That's there, and they were all not in agreement.
How can we move this along and in a timely manner to keep Commissioner Jasper happy? Because I do like the location, but I understand the concern. We have been talking about this for quite a while. Actually, I thought we'd
It's
approved this a long
prob-
time
look,
ago.
I haven't specifically talked to the folks at the county, CDBG, about it. So I don't think there's going to be a huge issue. It's probably a little bit of a modification, but the hitch pin is to ensure that the funds are used for and benefit low to moderate income folks, because that's the hook with the CDBG funds. So I don't think that the county is really going to have issue with the change of location, being that it's next to the resource center, based on its location, a little more commercial area. So I think it's a minor change. But again, whichever this body, wherever y'all want to go, I think we can make it work, and we can get it going.
Can I also make a comment about future development out there by 468? How would that hinder that future projects in the future by having the food pantry there?
Honestly, I don't think a whole lot, because that was one of the reasons we bought that house, was because that house was kind of the eye of the hurricane, right? And so I don't think we had plans to tear down the house. And so with this plan, I think it actually helps the plan a little bit, because now you got that core spot filled. We've also, it was Pastor Harvey, right, or Hardy?
Hardy.
He's also stored some stuff at the resource center, so shifting over there might be helpful. I mean, obviously, Commissioner Berry has brought this to the table. I think it works. I understand your concerns about delay. Practically, I think it does work. So whatever the commission desire is, we'll make it happen. So.
I should know this, but do we own the existing building next to Berry?
Yes.
Okay.
We do now.
Yes, we do.
So we used to have that. So Commissioner Jasper was asking. So that property that we own goes from that South Street up to the school. And the street names are leaving me, but there's 2 streets there. One that goes to, I think Rhymes is the name of that street, right? And
Pruitt Street, yeah.
Pruitt's the South Street, and then 468 is the western edge back to the school property. So that box is owned by the city, but for that 1115, which was the circle, but now that's filled in. So we own that whole box.
And also, too, just from a architectural design and land, as far as parking and things like that, how would that work at the County Road 468 location? That would be another concern. Like I said, we have adequate parking. We had a conceptual design of the building on McCormick Street and adding to it. Initially, we already had a design in place, so to speak, of some ideas, shall I say, conceptual designs in place. So.
Again, I don't know if that's a major issue, because we're probably going to have a little bit of trade-off. What we're not doing for facility, we'll be doing for parking. I think you have the road access there. You also have the ability to link back in and tap into the existing parking lot at the resource center. Look, I don't. You guys you get the 2 commissioners here going, with different concepts. I think either way the project works. Either way, I think we can do it for the budget, and so it's really just a matter, of shifting. And I think at the end of the day, the goals are accomplished. So wherever you all direct us is where we'll go.
Are the dollars about the same to renovate the two buildings?
Yes,
Fairly close?
I would think so. I think we can get the grants for about 250 grand. So one way or the other, I don't think we're looking at significant change.
And this grant's for 15 years, so if we need to make sure we choose the right location
Yes,
because we're tied to it for 15 years.
I agree.
Any other comment?
Yes, my name is Darrell Reeves, pastor of Mount Airy Metropolitan, 1108 East Main Street. I was administrator for the pandemic food program here in Lake County. We served 3 counties, and we administered over 16,000 boxes of meals during that period of time, which included fruit, vegetables, staples, and meats and things of that nature. And we decided to do it in a commercial industrial complex area, not at our church location because we're residential areas. And let me tell you, you create tremendous lines when people coming through to get those amounts of kinds of food. So you create a tremendous inconvenience for the community. But now on the financial side, as I have members living in that area, so you're basically saying to them, I'm trying to do a good at your harm. Because when you have a 15-year feeding program in your community, the value of your property goes down. So you're not benefiting the residents who own homes in that area. But if you move it to the other location, you're doing a good and a good, as opposed to harming some at the benefit of others. So a move would be the best way to go. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Fred Griffin Jr., President of West Leesburg Community Development. I've talked with several residents in that community, and they're already complaining because of the bus lot that is there, and then also the trunking company that is there. And as a sub bus driver, I see traffic like crazy come through day in and day out just to get to Carver Middle School and or leaving out of that depot. So I'm just here to advocate for the residents, and also on the behalf of Pastor Hardy. He's very concerned of that location, even though he's serving out of that particular location. Still parking is one of the issues, and he's not able to bring in caseloads of items if they did have to come through because of the congestions that's already going on. So that's just my intake and feedback from the residents. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenneth King, and I pastor the Mount Olive Progressive Baptist Church here in Leesburg on Child Street. But I live at 1016 McCormick Street in Carver Heights. And I think it's a great thing. It's feeding the homeless and food pantry and everything. I think it's a great thing. I'm not nowhere against that. I do have a problem somewhat with the location because of the existing problems already in the neighborhood. And I think with that and with the traffic, it may just increase some of the problems that we have already that we're trying our best to get rid of. And that's all I wanted to comment on that. I think it's a great thing.
Sure. Any other public comment? Okay, so we have a resolution. Okay. Come to the mic, please.
Good evening, everyone. I didn't know if this was the time. I thought the meeting was
Yeah, it's not. This is the CRA meeting. You got 10 minutes.
until 5:30. Thank you.
Yeah, you're in the right spot.
Good afternoon, all commissioners and mayor. My name is Matthew Atkins, and I pastor Mount Sinai at 920 McCormick Street. Like Pastor King says, that he lives in the community, but I pastor in the community. And daily, I have to somehow turn some people around by them coming through the yard of the church. And I'm for the pantry and everything, but not that location because we already have traffic that's tremendously bad. And not only the cars, but the walkers as well. So if you could change it to a different location, that would be very appreciative. Thank you.
So Currently, we have a resolution to approve the location. That's McCormick Street. This body, is anyone wanting to make a motion to amend that location? Is that what we would need if we were going to change that?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion, please. Actually, I would like to make a motion based on the analysis here that these two actions be separated with the vote, because it says to food pantry project while accepting CDBG funding to renovate the city building at the location. So I'd like to amend the two and maybe have a separate vote. May I do that?
Yeah, you just need to amend
The
just one
location?
motion to
Okay.
amend that. So the motion is to approve the grant.
I move.
So amend
I
it
move.
and then vote on the.
I would like to move to accept the actions listed here at the analysis of the food pantry project and accepting the CDBG and amend the location to 1115 County Road 468, Leesburg, Florida 3478.
Second.
748.
We got a second on that? Any discussion?
Once again, I'm not in favor of moving the location because I think it will hinder the process. There's people that are in need of this food now due to inflation and high cost of food. It would further delay the construction of the building, so I'm not in favor of making the amendment and changing the location.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Jasper,
No.
Chairperson Berry.
Yes. Now do we need to? Okay, so
Now you're.
now we have an amended motion on the floor that we have already brought in for approval.
So now you
We just
need
need a roll call on the original
Approval
motion.
for,
This is the grant as amended now.
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Jasper,
yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Chairperson Berry.
Yes.
Sorry.
No problem.
See, I'm not the only.
Yeah, it's I'm sure it's happened to both of us.
It'll happen again.
Okay, so we move on to item 4 is a discussion and update on CRA goals and objectives. And I'll leave that to you, Al.
I figured. Essentially, this is really put on there. There's no staff backup. You see, this is really a discussion on what the CRA board. Obviously, there's been kind of a lot of turnover from elected officials and board members. In the past, we had a project that was I'm going to say quasi-approved, but it had some strings of coming back to the commission, and the commission being this body. Because remember, this is Carver Heights CRA, so this is the body that votes to spend, how you spend the increment. And that project was the bond that we were going to use. So we had about $300,000 a year that we thought we could identify, that we could leverage some debt money. We talked from $1 to $3 million in terms of a bond. It turns out that probably that information is probably about 6 months old now. We're probably leaning more towards $1 million. And specifically, the project was for housing to go back towards the, I'm going to miss my roads, but Alabama Tuskegee project there, that was by Berry Park. As the faces have changed at the table here, we really haven't moved forward on that. So we want to just have an open discussion with you all for direction on where we go from here, if we need to change directions or modified directions. And perhaps, too, I'll throw out, you guys might want to think about maybe if there is a change of direction that's wanted before we start spending the funds, make sure that we spend it all in the direction we want to. And if there is some differing opinions at this time, it might be a good time to kind of just replan and kind of just take a step back and figure out how best to use the Carver Heights CRA monies moving forward. So that's really all the staff report that we had, is more of an open dialogue with y'all. I know we've got 5 minutes to discuss something significant, so it might be an item that we want to hold off and reschedule. Maybe we need to do this on an off Monday night so you have more time for discussion. An off meaning a first or third
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine with me.
Is it? Is that where you guys want to go? So I'll get back with, or Pam will get back with everybody, and we'll try to reschedule here for the very near future.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent. Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Connell, I'm sorry.
Nothing.
Commissioner Reisman.
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Jasper.
One thing, I don't know if this will tie into our meeting that we need to have, but there's Home in Partnership. They bought a lot off of Johns and Beecher. I would like to see that that program move forward with that. They wanted to build a house on that corner lot where for years, I think over 30 years, people used to just hang out there on a day-to-day basis. And I just think revitalization will help increase the property values and things of that nature, and also let someone have their American dream of owning a home. So I would like to see that project moving forward with Home in Partnership on the Johns and Beecher lot.
Commissioner Peterson.
The only comment I have, as we go forward, I would just like to see maps incorporated into the agenda when we talk about different properties. I mean, I'm a commercial realtor. I thought I knew my properties, but I think it'd be good for us and the audience to see maps, visuals.
Commissioner Berry.
Nothing further.
Commissioner Burry.
Nothing tonight. We'll adjourn. to order the meeting. This is Monday, March 13th. The time is 5:31, City Commission meeting. We've already had an invocation and a pledge at our CRA meeting. At this point, we'll read a couple of proclamations. The first is for Red Cross Month. Whereas in 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross, turning her steadfast dedication for helping others into a bold mission of preventing and alleviating people's suffering. And whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize and thank our everyday heroes, those volunteers who reach out to their neighbors when they are in need and are committed to providing help and hope in people's most difficult moments. And whereas every day these ordinary individuals lend a hand to make an extraordinary difference for those facing adversity, providing emergency shelter, food, and comfort for families displaced by home fires and other disasters, supporting military members and veterans, along with their families and caregivers, using vital skills like first aid and CPR to help others survive medical emergencies, delivering international humanitarian aid, and reconnecting loved ones separated by crises around the world. And whereas since July 1st, 2022, 98 Red Cross volunteers have responded to 25 home fires in Lake County and assisted 70 individuals, including 12 individuals and 4 house fires in Leesburg, as well as aiding residents impacted by Hurricane Ian. And whereas their support and volunteerism are vital to strengthening our community's resilience, and Leesburg formally recognizes the critical role the American Red Cross plays in our community and honors the Mid-Florida chapter contribution to making our city a better place. Now, therefore, I, James A. Burry, Jr., Mayor of the City of Leesburg, do hereby proclaim March 2023 as Red Cross Month and encourage all citizens to support this admirable organization and its humanitarian mission.
Is there anybody here?
Maybe Chief Barron?
From the Red Cross, picture. Our second proclamation is to the Friends of the Library's 70th anniversary. Whereas the Friends of the Leesburg Library, Inc. was established March 1953 as the Leesburg Library Association with a founding membership of 18 women and will celebrate its 70th anniversary in March 2023. And whereas soon after the group's creation, the City of Leesburg agreed to subsidize library services, and the first funded Leesburg Public Library moved into a wing of the newly created Venetian Gardens Community Building in 1955. And whereas the mission of the Friends of the Leesburg Library, Inc. is to, 1, maintain an association of persons interested in libraries, 2, focus public attention on the library, 3, stimulate the use of the library's resources and services, 4, receive and encourage gifts, endowments, and bequests to the library, 5, support and cooperate with the library in developing library services and facilities for the community, and 6, manage the Barbara Morse Bookstore. And whereas the support of the Friends of the Leesburg Library has remained steadfast through occupancy in 4 different buildings, at every juncture the Friends have raised money to fund library programs and special projects, including the $1 million raised by the Friends for the new library building in 2007. And whereas the Barbara Morse Bookstore operated by the Friends of the Leesburg Library, staffed by almost 50 dedicated volunteers, has since become the primary fixture of the group's fundraising efforts. And whereas the Friends of the Leesburg Library's gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and a betterment of our community. Now, therefore, I, James A. Burry, Jr., Mayor of the City of Leesburg, do hereby proclaim and congratulate the Friends of the Leesburg Library, Inc. on its 70th anniversary and express appreciation for the many contributions the Friends have made to the Leesburg Public Library. Okay, we'll move on to presentations now. I'll ask Al to do the Employee Service Awards recognitions, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Melissa Arriaga, Director of Human Resources. It is a pleasure to do this portion here. Ahead of time, I'd like to thank all the employees that are here today, their coworkers and family members, recognizing their milestones today. So we'll start off with Mr. Jacob Furkes. He has been with us for 10 years, and he currently serves as a water operator apprentice in Public Works.
10 years, yes, sir, 10 long. I know, I remember meeting at the Christmas party there.
Congratulations. Next up, we'd like to recognize Officer Eric Lamoureux. Actually, I'm sorry, my apologies, Corporal Eric Lamoureux. He serves as a police corporal and has been with the police department for the last 10 years. So congratulations. Next, going on to 20 years of service, we would like to recognize Ms. Angela Marie Carter. She currently serves as a business analyst in our electric department. Congratulations. Next, Mr. David Lott. He currently serves as an operations manager in our information technology department, 20 years. Congratulations. We'd also like to recognize our Planning and Zoning Director, Dan Miller. He has served with the City of Leesburg for 20 years.
This actually counts Dan's both tours.
Thank you, Dan. We'd now like to recognize one of our fire lieutenants, Mr. Jeffrey Moore. He has served the fire department for the last 20 years. Congratulations. Now, this is a very special award. 35 years of service. Mr. Greg David has been with the electric department since 1988. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you very much.
At this point, we'll move on to item 4, public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Do I just start?
Please give us your name and your address.
Carol Nichols, 2061 Montclair Road in Leesburg, Florida. I want to thank Al Miner for getting the grass cut on Center Street going towards Montclair's. Anyway, it looks a lot better, and I want to make it official that we're trying to get the ditch fixed next to Oak Ridge condominiums, and hopefully a path from Carver Heights to the apartments on the other side of Montclair, Oak Ridge, and hopefully a sidewalk. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Edward Sloan, and this is my wife, Becky. Our question is, how can we get our voices heard when we have a problem with the building department? We have an ongoing problem for over a year now with a roof that we had put on our house, and it's not code compliant. And we paid for the permits. We hired ACI Roofing out of Mount Dora to do the work, and they screwed our roof up. And we were expected to have city inspections. Even on the certificate of completion, it says that the work will be inspected for compliance with the Florida Building Code. I found out afterwards that that job has not been inspected either physically or virtually with photos. We're at a point right now where Ms. Ann Kinsey, the building official, stated from day one that her hands are bound by the state. The state says she has to accept a contractor's sworn affidavit. The city doesn't inspect workmanship. They only ensure minimum codes are met. And she has no enforcement powers because she has to accept this sworn affidavit from the state. Our end result is our roof shingle nailing is not compliant. Our rafters that were fixed are not compliant, code compliant, and we're out $14,000. We had to sue the ACI Roofing, and that's ongoing with small claims court. We filed a complaint with the DBPR, which is ongoing. They brought charges against the contractor, but it's not finalized yet. Ann was very helpful for the first 2 months that we interacted. And then the contractor came out and met at our house, and then things went downhill right from there drastically for 7 months, the last 7 months. It came to a point where in January, Ms. Kinsey wrote a letter to the DBPR providing a summary to help them with their decision on my complaint. And in my humble opinion, I hate to say this publicly, but it rose to the level of libel. It's filled with non-factual, misleading information and lies. I brought to the attention of Mr. Al Minner here. We had a meeting for about a half hour, the three of us, Ms. Kinsey, myself, and Mr. Minner. And he agreed that the entire system failed us. He gave us our permit money back, had her retract the letter that she sent to the DBPR. But we are at a point right now that he feels that she didn't do anything unprofessional in this matter. And I have proof that that is absolutely untrue. And we've been drugged through the mud here for this last year between ACI and the City of Leesburg Building Department. And again, I'd like to know who we can speak to finally talk about this and see what happened here. So it doesn't, so we can get some kind of resolution, and then it doesn't happen to somebody else again down the road.
I'll give you just some background on this situation and then ask Grant kind of fill you in on the legal stuff, and I hate to be legal. I am aware of the situation, and I think Mr. Sloan summarized my comments correctly. I do think the system let Mr. Sloan down, so let me explain that. And I don't know how many people really know this, but these days, probably, I don't know, the last 3-4 years, the building inspection model is inspectors don't go up on roofs these days. You know, back in the day, you saw the inspector drive around with a ladder, and they would go up on the roof, inspect the roofs. We don't do that process these days. We don't do that process out of safety. So the building department accepts a building inspection a bunch of different ways. Virtually, so video, that we're doing this correct. Pictures of nailing stuff, and then ultimately an affidavit that the contractor says, where they sign the affidavit and they say say, we inspected this correctly. I think the building official has some leeway there in terms of what they do to accept it. I think there's pros and cons to this method. It is an industry standard, so this is not just a Leesburg, doesn't go up on roofs. It's an industry standard these days. In this particular case, what happened was Ann accepted the affidavit, and in her opinion, she weighted that the highest. And then as we got into the situation, it did appear that Mr. Sloan had a point, that the roof indeed was not nailed down correctly. So to help Mr. Sloan, when Ann accepted the affidavit, she closed the case and issued the CO. When Mr. Sloan demonstrated that the project wasn't done, she reopened the case so that Mr. Sloan could then file a complaint with DBPR. That's the long and the short of it. At this stage, the case remains open. That causes problems for Mr. Sloan for a couple reasons. One is trying to get his insurance, which is certainly problematic. And the other, he's in a litigious situation. From our standpoint in our conversations, we had one conversation where Mr. Sloan discussed all this, and the rigmarole of that, of the delays and of the open and the misconception of where he thought Ann was, that I felt like was catalyst. All right, here's your permit fees back. The system failed you for these reasons, and failure of the system does not mean unprofessional action or liability on the city. It means that you got a frustrated resident, and the thing that we did was return a permit fee, which is like $90. Subsequent to that, my opinion is that Mr. Sloan was not happy with that for understandable reasons. And the second visit that we had with Mr. Sloan was, who can I speak to? And I was like, at this stage, I would say the city commission. Mr. Sloan sought damages of $14,000 from the city. I don't think that's the city's place to return. And so we're at a little bit of an impasse. So I think Grant can probably discuss some of the options that are available to Mr. Sloan.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously frustration anytime there's any kind of construction defect situation that arises. As Mr. Minner said here, I mean, I think everyone can understand the frustration you've expressed and that you've sort of been through the ringer here a little bit. At this point, I think you've got the DBPR complaint going, you say? Mm-hmm. Depending on how that shakes out, there is a construction recovery fund in Florida. I don't know if you've spoken to DBPR about that or not. But if they find that there was some liability on the part of the contractor here in terms of not meeting their professional obligations, and there's any kind of restitution order, there is a state fund that you could apply to have your claim reimbursed. So you might consider that. I mean, I think that the DBPR process right now is probably your best hope in terms of seeing how that plays out. Now, you have litigation going as well, you say? You have an ongoing
small claims court. We couldn't afford an attorney for adult court.
Well, you can.
So we went small claims.
You can actually. So small claims, the limitations are $8,000.
Correct.
You can do county or circuit as a pro se individual. You have the right a constitutional right to access the court. So you could move that case to regular county court if you wanted to and get out of small claims. Now, small claims does sort of put you at mediation as a first step, so that's an opportunity to maybe try and work things out. But you can move your case to county court so that you're not capped on damages and pursue it that way. And I think just check with DBPR about the construction recovery fund would be my suggestion. I believe that there's a claim form that they have on their website that you could send in to them. But if you've already got a point of contact with DBPR, I think I would just go ahead and have that conversation with them and see what information you can get about that recovery fund, because that might make you whole.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, sir.
How about the letter that was sent to the DBPR from Ms. Kinsey that, like I said, I'm not an attorney. When I look at what libel is, it was spelled out in that letter. A picture of me was painted as the bad person here, and there were lies in there, a lot of misinformation, and then Mr. Minner finally had her retract it because she sent it 3 times. I sent 2 demand letters to have her retract those letters because she kept on refining it or altering it a little bit, sending it back to the DBPR, and I'm saying it's still not factually true, and there's lies in there.
I don't really want to go down the rabbit hole of that issue. I mean, what I would suggest is that what I've heard is that ultimately there was a letter sent to DBPR that put forth sort of the perspective that you were looking for in terms of the problems that you had suffered, or at least limited some of the comments to just say, there's a problem.
The 4th letter.
Yeah.
The 3 of them were sent out that were absolutely untrue with false information and flat-out lies about what information that Ms. Kinsey had to base her decision on, letting his contractor just keep getting away with what he was getting away with.
If you would, I'll go down the rabbit hole just a little bit, okay? Because I think it becomes an opinion matter on what the letter did or didn't say. From Ann's perspective, Ann closed out a case based on an affidavit that she accepted from a roofing contractor. That's a legit building inspector practice these days in the state of Florida. Most organizations do that these days. Mr. Sloan is correct in that drone video and footage and pictures weren't used as a basis in that. So he thinks that the building department didn't do their job.
Correct.
I think that's a reasonable statement. But what supersedes that is the acceptance of the affidavit. So when the contractor signs the letter, that's the hand on the Bible saying, I did this to pursuant to code, and it was reasonable for Ann to accept that. That's why she issued the CO. If it is a certificate, it's not a CO, but that's why she closed the building permit and closed the project. Upon Mr. Sloan's complaints that the builder did not do their job, Ann capitulated to that, and Ann reopened the case, and Ann wrote 3 letters on Mr. Sloan's behalf to DBPR. There's one sentence, in my opinion, in those 3 letters that maybe Ann shouldn't have written. They weren't libelous, but she provided her opinion on that perhaps Mr. Sloan damaged the product when he started lifting up shingles. I think that was her opinion that didn't need to be stated. But the lion's share of the letter stipulated that the project was not done specific to code, that she closed and opened it to help Mr. Sloan fight the contractor with DBPR. At the end of the day, after Mr. Sloan came and saw me, I asked that Ann remove that one sentence and provide a brief letter to DBPR that said the job wasn't done right. Everything else I say, I take back, to make Mr. Sloan happy, so that hopefully if there was any prejudice that Ann may have done, that was now removed by the final letter. I don't think that Ann acted unprofessionally. I think Ann did her job. I don't think that she prejudiced DBPR. I think it's a difficult situation, and I think there's still options available to Mr. Sloan, as Grant outlined.
And I think, tagging on to that DBPR sort of, as I understand, worked with the city to get the permit reopened so that they could open an investigation appropriately, seems to indicate to me that I don't think they're holding any earlier statements against you necessarily, that they've accepted the comments from the city that there's problems here and needs to be investigated. So I think, ultimately, DBPR is doing what you want them to do right now. They're investigating the situation. Once they've made their ultimate findings, we'll have more information in terms of where things are. If DBPR says contractor breached their professional obligations, you've been damaged by $14,000, and we order restitution of $14,000, then I think you're going to be made whole. But at this point, point, we just don't know until DBPR has issued their ultimate ruling on the situation. And you have your companion Kate lawsuit going as well, which, again, who knows how that shakes out. But DBPR's process might solve your problem for you outside of the litigation context.
I agree with all that. However, from day one, it's been Ms. Kinsey has washed her hands of this. Go bark up that tree over there with the DBPR. And I got to be honest with you, I'm hearing the same thing here. No one here wants to look at what I have in writing that came from Ms. Kinsey over the course of this past year and how this played out to drag me through the mud for the last 7 months, specifically through the last 7 months.
And may I add that the attorney for the contractor is using that information that he received from Ms. Kinsey as a weapon to not resolve the case.
In mediation a week or so ago, because I had to go to mediation before we have our small claims hearing, their attorney used Ms. Kinsey's words against me as a claim against my as a defense against my claims.
Regardless
because of what she wrote in those letters, because she copied the contractor on everything she sent to the DBPR. So this is what I'm saying. There's other stuff going on behind the scenes here, and I certainly can't hash this out with anyone now. And all I was asking for was an opportunity to sit down with somebody that actually wants to give me a little time to go over this, so it doesn't happen to someone else down the road, but more importantly to us now. How we weren't looking for a full $14,000 restitution here from the city of Leesburg. That's not our intent. We are out $14,000. We're going to try and get back what we can. Thank you for saying about the fund from the state.
Yes, sir.
We'll pursue that, believe me. But again, we're still out this. We can't even renew our homeowner's insurance in 3 months because we have a failed roof. It wouldn't have been to this point if this would have been handled differently through the building department up front as we proceeded here. We would not be at this point right now. I don't want to be here tonight. Actually, I like Ann. I actually like her as a person. I just didn't like the way this was handled. So that's where we're at right now. And so I'm asking if there's somebody that I can sit and meet with outside of this forum here just to discuss this a little further. I'd appreciate that.
Ed, you're always welcome to my office, my friend. So,
and Al,
and we don't need to go down the rabbit hole, but you know where I'm at. You can walk in like you did the last two. Well, you had the meeting the first time. You had to walk in the last time, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole about what the claim was. But the meeting did end abruptly. I read your email about how you thought I was curt and unprofessional, and that was because you demanded $14,000 from us.
No, I did not demand $14,000.
That was my interpretation. Look, we don't need to go down the state. We don't need to go down the rabbit hole.
And I'll just add that
you're always welcome to come back, and I'll hear you out. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stand by Ann's work. You're in a predicament, and if we need to work with Grant to get stuff
and I was going to say I'm more than happy to meet with you guys too if y'all want to set something up.
I would ask you this then: if you're willing to do that, please. You have my phone number, you have our address, my email address, all that. Contact me. Please set up a time.
My office will set something up with you, Ed.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
To realize though that the moment we realized that there was a mistake with the permit, not only did we reopen it so the DBPR could go forward, but we rejected that
It's okay.
both at that time and on the following time after the contractor had tried to make it.
All right.
It stands now as
Well,
we can discuss
give me
that.
a buzz.
I appreciate your
Actually,
time.
I will reach out to you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? I think that's where we were.
Yes, sir.
Move on to item 5, the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commission staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. Pull the item or items from the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. And 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items any of the commissioners would like to pull?
B1, B2, and C5.
make a motion to approve the remaining items on consent agenda.
Let me just make sure, did you have any you wanted to pull? Okay. Motion on the floor to approve the
Remaining items.
Second that motion.
Right, roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
Yes. All right, let's. Okay. This is 5B. Okay. Would someone please introduce 5B1?
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a task order with Half Associates, Inc. for design and engineering services for Lake Denham Trail PD and E study and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Discussion?
Yes, I pulled this. We're talking about, well, you might as well say $200,000, $199 and some change for basically a engineering study to see what's even going to cost us to do it. My understanding, we don't have a funding source, even when we find out what this is going to cost. And I just think we should quit spending this kind of money to find out what something's going to cost us when we don't even have the money to fund it. I don't think we should be spending anything until we have a funding source. Then approve stuff like this, not prior to having any funding to even do the project, but we're going to spend $200,000 to find out what it's going to cost us.
We've had this discussion a few times.
Yes, we have.
The city has the obligation to do the study, and we've talked about this in budget. I fully support this. We actually approved the one for Tab Lee, I believe. And the way this works is the city has to fund the engineering, the estimates, and then it basically goes into a pipeline, and state funds everything else. So this is a state-funded project. It's just getting in line for state money.
Yeah, but I mean, we've done this before and found out when we got ready to do it 2 years later, it was 3 times the amount that the study told us it was going to cost.
Well, all we're trying to do here is join all the other cities in this big Rails to Trails movement, getting connected to the trails. I supported the various Leesburg Trail. I support this one. I think to spend $200,000 to now position us for state money, everybody's doing it. It's the right thing to do. I'm a big supporter of Rails to Trails. I support this.
I also support the Rails to Trails. This is the first step in getting the funding. So yes, I support it.
Any other comments from the commissioners?
I just want to be sure the crowd is clear. I think they understand what I'm saying. This is not city money for the construction of the trail. So I think everybody's clear on that. So we have not set aside money for the actual construction of the trail. That will be state money.
It's ARP, yeah. The PD&E study is American Recovery Act funds.
Right. Oh, thank you.
Which sets us up for design, then potentially construction, and then hopefully MPO money, state money, or if you need to reach into your pockets for discretionary sales tax money or some other special revenue that would fund the project. Hopefully we get state money.
But help me out. I mean, I read about these in the paper. I mean, all the ones we're reading about are being funded fully by the state. Is that a fair so far?
So far.
Okay. And if it comes back before this commission and it's $1 or $2 million from the commission, we'll have that debate at that time.
Any other comments from the commission? Any public comment on this? Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
No.
Mayor Burry.
Yes. Would someone please introduce 5B2?
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a construction services agreement with a guaranteed maximum price, GMP, with Wharton Smith, Inc. for $2,948,271 and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second. Discussion?
Yeah, I just want to get clarification here. I believe this project's been majorly modified down from what was the original concept of what was approved years ago. And what was, I mean, just to refresh my memory, what was approved years ago and at what cost?
Okay, so the project about 2 years ago when we put it on the books was a project that sought to redevelop Pine Street from Canal all the way to Lake. And it kind of had two phases. The first phase the whole phase is a beautification type of project, but it also had a safety component. And the safety component started about Rambo, where we were going to put in a big roundabout and then put in some other safety devices at the hospital from Rambo back to Lake. When we set out to do the project, we thought the project was going to be about $2.5 million. But we've taken about 18, 24 months to get to this phase, and a lot of stuff happened in that 24 months that increased costs, COVID, the like, inflation, and keep going down the list. Then, no, the parking lot was always part of the initial concept. The real driver to the increase was inflation. So as we went down and we did the design, we put about, I think the number was, we had set aside $2.5 million of the all requirement monies to do the project, and we spent about $300,000 designing the whole project, working with the hospital, getting it all coordinated, doing the public meetings and the informational stuff, and so by the time we got down to it, kind of in the heat of COVID and inflation starting to crank up on us, the construction manager at Risk Method through Wharton Smith said the project was going to cost about almost $9 million. So we missed that mark was missed. And you know, that seems like a big miss on the surface, but I think when you add in some of the things in the economy and environment that have transpired, those numbers are understandable. And I think everybody's seeing these inflation type of numbers. So obviously at $9 million, the project's not doable. So the next delay came in, well, what can we do to make this project doable? Because I think it is an important project, and it's an important project to help minority businesses in Pine Street, improve the corridor, to add other beautification measures in our community, especially off downtown. So the most economical way to do the project was to scale it back and scale it back between Child and Child back to Canal Street. The things that now make it affordable is not doing the roundabout, not doing some of the landscaping that was on the east end of the project, and not doing some of the infrastructure improvements that would have to be relocated out of the new street, where we hit a lot of utility conflicts that was going to be on that east side. On the west side here, we avoided a lot of the utility conflicts and scaled the project back to realigning the road so we get the on-street parking, decreasing the scope of the CDC parking lot, so we have a parking lot, but the initial scope also had for soil stability, where buildings would potentially be built there and these type of things. So we abandoned that part of the project, and we basically keep it to building the CDC parking lot, putting the on-street parking in, putting in some streetscaping, new pavement for the road, the sidewalks, and those type of things. That number is $2.9 million. We did our level best to try to get this back into a $2.5 to $2.2 million budget. Now, Wharton Smith, I think, has worked extremely hard to get the number to that 2.95, right? And they're hopeful that we'll be below that. And again, some of the delay in bringing this number to you is the fact, again, the construction market, lining up the subs, getting some guaranteed prices so that Wharton Smith had a framework of being able to bring us a maximum guaranteed price project. Now, they're hopeful that we get below that, so, you know, that's yet to be seen. So after all of that, before you is the project with those improvements that I mentioned, the CDC parking lot. That will fund about $250,000 of that. Between the CDC repaying those grant monies back to the city that gets the CDC parking lot done. So our deficit was about, I think the number's about $600,000, which we take from the ARP pot. So if you recall, we sent out an email to the commission about 2 or 3 weeks ago that kind of summed up some of these projects, their status. This was the first one on the list. And right now, as far as capital monies that we have stashed away, there's about $1.7 million in the ARP monies that have yet to be allocated, and about $2 some that's in other monies, whether it's general fund revenue monies, whether it's some DST monies, and other special revenues that are earmarked for capital projects. So you have a war chest of about 3.7 before you tap into monies above your required reserve in the general fund. So because of this project, because it's been on the books for a while, because it's important, I think, for the minority community, because it's important for the pool, and because we have the ARP monies, we can get at least a major portion of the project done. Hopefully in time we can look to complete the project on the east side. I will say the hospital has worked extremely well with us, and they took the news well. They took it reasonable and certainly understanding, because they're seeing the same issues with the market. So obviously the staff recommendation is to do the project and to reallocate the additional monies from the ARP. So that leaves you a little bit over 3.2 million left in the quote-unquote war chest to do other projects that may come up.
So what percentage of pine is this going to take care of?
About
30%?
half. About half, maybe 40.
Okay, I was thinking less than
greater
that.
than 30. It was a 3-block, 4-block area, but it does lop out some of the big stuff. The roundabout was a big price item in there, but we cover the part where there's a good bulk of minority businesses, and we also work to improve the entryway and the corridor for the swimming pool. I should say aquatic facility.
Right.
I was down at the pool over the weekend. Couldn't find a parking spot anywhere. So I just want to go, will this parking lot be open to the public at all times?
Yes.
Okay.
I think these construction cost numbers are, kind of crazy. I know Al and I spoke about this project, some other projects. I can't speak for the whole commission, but I think I see us maybe putting some other projects on hold, letting this economy cool off and maybe build projects at a better price. But after putting the pool on Pine Street, when we put the pool on Pine Street, I went on the record, I supported that. And I said, if we're going to put it here, we have to improve Pine Street. That's part of the deal. It's hard for me to comprehend $2.9 million on this project, but it's important to the Pine Street community. We spent the money on the pool. I think it's just time to go ahead and finish this. But I am mentioning to the commission, we might slow down some other projects and try to see if these. And I am hearing construction costs is coming down, in the public sector.
And if I could tap on to Commissioner Peterson's remarks there about cooling on projects, and in that same memo, the other big project of concern that we saw was the marina. Remember, we set aside about $2 million for the marina with the purpose of doing 3 things: rebuilding the welcoming reception, maybe with a concession stand, and putting in some more floating docks. So again, we have been leaning on that construction manager at risk procurement process, and it has worked out well for us in the past. We will stand behind that. I think the Venetian Center got built because of that construction method, and because at that time we really saw how working with the architect and the contractor changed some methods in that design of the Venetian Center, whereby I think if we did the whole vision of what the architects want and the whole Cadillac plan, when that went out to bid, that number would have been, I think that number would have been crazy high. So our contract method really worked well to get us a quality building pretty much on budget on that project. I think construction manager worked well as well for the resource center to keep that project moving, and the teen center for that matter. I do, because of this project, the Pine Street project, those numbers went crazy. And when we got the initial, now I'm not no disrespect to the construction manager at the Marina project, but those numbers, $1,000 a square foot, now they were working in the blind on a lot of that. But I think in moving forward, I think we have 2 big projects right now, excluding Pine. Assuming you all approve that tonight, that kind of puts that one to bed, and then we start construction process. But the two big projects on the board, obviously the Susan Street project, which we'll talk about next, and the Marina project. My recommendation to you on this, which goes back to Commissioner Peterson's remarks, is it might be time to go back to good old-fashioned design, bid, build on a couple of these projects. So the first test of that is going to be we sent out in the marketplace a modification. So we've got two big projects. We still have construction manager at risk working for Susan Street, and now we're going to go design, bid, build on Marina to see where that comes back. So the next big test is the economic market too hot going to be when we start negotiating the RFP for the design parameters on the Marina. So that will probably, you'll have that conversation, my guess, on your desk probably in the next 45 to 60 days at the latest. So I think those comments are well heard. I don't disagree with them. So we'll just see where this market goes.
Any other comments? Public comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pete.
Got to be quicker, John.
I know. On the clock, yeah.
I got it. I'm sure I got what you're passing out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Good evening. My name is Pastor John Christian. I'm the Executive Chairman of the Community Development Corporation of Leesburg. In your packet, I gave you three things, and I've asked Al to hire me as his assistant, but he has not hired me yet. Just a reminder, when we sold the property here, the vacant land contract, when we sold the property to the city of Leesburg, on the third page to the end, it says the buyer, the city, will endeavor to extend the life of the downtown Leesburg CRA to the extent permitted by applicable law. That was done. And will endeavor to partner with the buyer to redevelop the Pine Street corridor. This is what we're talking about tonight. Buyer also agrees to continue to adhere to the requirements of the consent decree as amended in case number 92-165. Also have a copy of the consent decree as well. Page number 6, it talks about the things that the city would do. That's basically to support the development efforts of the CDC. Talks about if there's any conflict with funding, that we will both sit down. If we think this fund, you say it's not, we sit down and we come to some type of resolution. Last, I found a newspaper article from 1996 for Frank Stanfield and Don Fernandez, Orlando Sentinel. I thought it was kind of interesting because it talked about the Pine Street lawsuit. Page 2, it says the suit of the city is conspiring with the hospital to deprive people of their property and failing to help low-income property owners to get enough federal aid and use code enforcement and zoning laws to select the condemned property. The red says when the city did get some federal funds, they were stolen and misused, the suit says. In 1981, one city worker and 2 contractors pleaded guilty and were sent to prison in connection with misappropriation of federal grants earmarked for Pine Street. The third page talks about Mr. Jim Hill. 3 Generation Barbecue is still in operation. One of the comments he made is, there's always a blighted area society leaves alone. Standing outside his restaurant and surveying the city, it has always been neglected here, Mr. Hill said. Tonight, I think the city council has an opportunity to make a bold statement and rewrite a wrong that has happened at Pine Street many years in the past. I strongly urge you to vote to approve this $2.9 million, of course. As Al said, we all were shocked because we wanted to see Pine Street from Canal to Lake Street done, but we know and understand $9 million is excessive. But you must remember, when we built the Aquatic Center and now you manage the Aquatic Center, it wasn't just for Pine Street, a neighborhood. You now became a regional attraction. You're now a magnet, as Commissioner Reisman said. He could not find a parking space. People are literally parking on the grass at the Aquatic Center near your fire hydrant. This parking lot, which will be a joint partnership with the CDC and the city, will not just help the businesses, but also help people come to visit Pine Street. We think it's monumental for this city commission motion to make a 5-0 vote. Commissioner Cannell, we're depending on you tonight to show a strong support of Pine Street and the redevelopment. We have several of the business owners who are here who've invested their life savings to start businesses on Pine Street. I don't know if you want to hear from all of them tonight, but I think I can stand in agreement with them that they believe in this project. I kind of sold them on the parking lot coming, Pine Street beautified, and there is on-street parking. That is true. But through the settlement with the Pine Street Commercial District, as you notice, there's no handicap parking on the street. So this parking lot would also satisfy ADA compliant. So you would now do something that the city of Leesburg on Pine Street probably hasn't done in the last 60 years, is provide handicap opportunities and provide a safe passage, because if two cars are coming down Pine Street and someone's on the road, someone has to stop and allow them to pass by. I think if you invite someone to your house should be in order. So you're now inviting people from this entire region to Pine Street, and I think you should stand with your chest poked out and say Pine Street is now a street that we are proud of. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. C5?
Yes, sir.
Would someone please introduce 5C5?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement to accept a TDC grant between Lake County, Florida and the City of Leesburg, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second. Discussion?
Yes, I pulled this. I spoke to Al earlier today about this. My understanding it's a $1 million grant, but we have to meet some requirements, or we have to refund the money. And I think it's being proposed to modify those agreements and send it back to the county on the tourist provision. Is that
that's exactly the thing. So in that, I'm also going to ask the commission this, and Grant, this is, I don't think, a big deal for you. But so on that note, there's the issue at hand. I believe it's in paragraph 3 or so of that agreement. Is the TDC, the Tourist Development Committee's want for fiduciary responsibility of ensuring that the TDC dollars are spent correctly, and that justifying their expense was a good expenditure. So that fiduciary responsibility is certainly understood, I think, by our staff and certainly by me, and working with you all, and know how important ensuring to the public that the elected officials are living up to their fiduciary responsibilities are. Having said that, there definitely is conflict amongst the TDC, amongst staff on both county and the city level about how that fiduciary responsibility should go. And so when we were present for the TDC recommendation to the BOCC, Board of County Commissioners moving forward, there was significant discussion, and this discussion is not new. The composition of the TDC is very complex, from appointments of city commissioners from jurisdictions within Lake to hotel owners to kind of at-large members. And I believe the TDC panel is 7 to 9 members, so it's Brandon's looking. Is it 9 or 7? It's 7. So, by the way, that reference was to Brandon Maltuka, who's in the audience, who does not represent Lake but knows what I'm talking about. In any case, it's 7 members, The crux of the matter is, do you spend TDC dollars, which is the heads and bed tax, on advertising for events, which the hoteliers love, because there's a direct connect of that weekend, there was this many people in a hotel room, and it was maybe because of this event. So the hotel owners love that direct connect. There's a more abstract connection of when you take the TDC dollars, and even though you can spend it on capital improvement, sometimes the hoteliers don't see that when you build ball fields or when you build marinas or when you build capital structures, that draws people in and puts people in just as much as when you advertise for an event. So there's that core conflict. And what the TDC wants to do is tie everything to room nights, so that if the TDC and the BOCC ultimately approve TDC dollars be spent on capital, that you immediately can measure the impact of room nights. The agreement specifically calls that out. It says the city and the BOCC will work to design a crawlback provision. But because we haven't come to the conclusion of how to do that crawlback provision, that was left open in the agreement. So what should be the provision to pay back grant dollars if by some measuring standard this capital expense wasn't seen as a success by the BOCC? Our version of the agreement has an exhibit which gives our proposal. And that proposal is not to do it by heads and beds or what is the hotel room count. Why? Because the TDC dollars bring in $2.8 to $3.2 million every year. That's the fluctuation window. The average room cost for a hotel in Lake County is around $85. $85 times 365 times the total number of hotel rooms in Lake County is $3.2 million. So the argument there is that the rooms are already being filled. We can only build so many rooms in Lake County, so that when we do have big spillover events, like the spring games that's going on right now in Sleepy Hollow, like Bike Fest, those rooms are full, so you're seeing people who are in Lake starting to spread out to Marion County, to Orange County, going out to where there's other hotels near Leesburg. So our argument is, don't measure us by that standard, because that standard, that bucket's already full. We're already spilling out of the bucket. So therefore, measure us on events that we're going to hold at these facilities that we're using TDC monies for. That's what the exhibit in the agreement basically says. Don't use room dollars because of this reason. Use a standard on a major, minor, or little event. And then we define that, and then we're going to have X number of these. And if we don't have X number of these, then we pay back that percentage. I do find it a bit odd that the county doesn't, that the BOCC doesn't, or at least this has been projected by staff, they want the agreement approved first, and then they want to have discussions on what the method in paragraph 3 is. So in the packet, you have an agreement with our Exhibit A. So I'm going to ask that a friendly amendment be made so that we can make Exhibit A an agreement. And so instead of it being an Exhibit A to the agreement, we'll remove that out of the agreement, and then Exhibit B will say an agreement between the City of Leesburg and the BOCC, whereby we define the definition of crawlback provision, and the mayor signs off on that. And all this discussion pretty much occurred after the packets went out, so I didn't have a chance to separate it into the packets. So my suggestion to this body is, because the way the county, the BOCC is setting this up is, are we out on the limb? If we accept this agreement, are we putting ourselves on $1 million limb? I don't necessarily think so, because at the end of the day, if we can't agree to a crawlback provision, there, as you saw in the agreement, there's a time span where that money's issued to the city. We just don't take it, or we go back and we terminate the agreement if we can't come up with a reasonable crawlback provision agreement. So my suggestion is to approve the grant agreement, and then to send them an agreement on how you want to define the crawlback provision, and we send to the BOCC 2 agreements and let them deal with with it however they may. My inclination is that county staff will probably put the TDC agreement on one meeting and then our crawlback provision. Travis and I will try to beat up county staff as best we can to get the BOCC to look at both agreements at the same time. I don't know if we'll be successful in that, but I think that this body needs to say, we want your grant money. Leesburg is one of the biggest providers of TDC dollars in the state, or in the county. Well, we've got 5-6 hotels, so we're probably about 40% of all the hotel rooms in the county comes from Leesburg. So these TDC dollars need to be spent in Leesburg. This is our biggest, in my time as being your city manager, we got $600,000 in TDC money to help build the docks. Not much more after that, and I think we got some TDC money for Sleepy Hollow, and now so this is now $1 million request. So we're 40%. We'll say we're probably 30 to 40% of those dollars on the small side. So we're Leesburg is generating 500 grand or so of those TDC every year. So that's your police and fire, your general services, taking care of those hotels, and we have probably received some of the smallest TDC dollars back. So I think this body needs to approve the TDC grant, approve the crawlback provision agreement as I recommended. It's Exhibit A in your packet, and all we're going to do is take Exhibit A and put an agreement between with the signature line on the bottom. So it's basically Scribner stuff. So we're no funny games here. It's taking the exhibit and making an agreement. So we recommend, obviously, to approve the agreement and then to give the grant the administrative ability and the mayor the ability to sign an agreement, which is basically Exhibit A.
Do you need a motion from someone?
Well, I have one thing I want to add is at the last meeting, it came up to spend, I don't know how much was it, Al, hundreds of thousands of dollars to move forward with the engineering.
It was about $500,000, 500
Yes, and I had recommended the last meeting that we not move forward until we secured the money to actually fund this project because it was so much higher than we anticipated. But the commission approved to move forward anyway. But so now we're back to, we still are the funding. I don't think we should move forward at all on spending any money on this project until we see we can even get the funding to do it. Is what I said 2 weeks ago, and I still stand by that.
Well, I voted to support the project. I respect Commissioner Cannell's comments on that. What I said in the meeting was, if we don't get the $1 million, we'll have to pull back on the design of the project, find ways to cut cost on it. At the time, we were also very optimistic that we would get the money. I like Al's recommendation. I served on the TDC board for 2 years. I never really quite bought into how they count hotel beds, so I really compliment Al on how he's approaching it. I mean, it's a much better way to track the money. And my last comment is the clawback money is not a 0 or $1 million. It's tiered. I mean, we could be at risk of. I don't think we're at risk, but we could be at risk of having to send some small amounts back. Of course, we could be at risk of sending $1 million back, but I still feel good about the project. We did vote to spend. We did approve the engineering in the last meeting, and I'll support Al's recommendation.
Any other comments? Do we need a motion?
If you would, to amend, as I've asked, to make I think it's amendment Exhibit A, to make that into an agreement form so that you make schedule. So the amendment is to make turn Schedule A into an agreement form and authorize the mayor to execute that. And so that when you make your final vote, you'll be one vote to approve the grant agreement and the crawlback provision.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay, now we're back to the
On the
resolution.
final vote.
On the final vote. Any other discussion on that? Roll call.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
Yes. Okay. Okay, we'll now move on to public hearings and non-routine items. 6A, second reading of ordinances. Would someone please introduce 6A1?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 4.87 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg Spud Small Plan Unit Development to City of Leesburg Spud Small Plan Unit Development to allow residential development for property generally located south of West Line Street and east of Lee Street, lying in Section 26, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Discussion. Dan, you want to?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, Mr. Miller. I'm going to go ahead and get everybody sworn in for our. All right. If anybody in the audience, including city staff, is here to present any testimony or other evidence on any of the items in 6A or 6B of the agenda, if you would please stand and raise your right hand so you can be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the Small Plan Unit Development for Lee Village. This is a proposal for the revision of the permitted uses and development plan on the Lee School. The property consists of approximately 5 acres, bounded by Westline, Herndon, Perkins, and Lee Street. By way of background, under the old PUD, there was an allowance for 14 apartments in the existing south building and 48 townhomes on the remainder of the property for a total, I think it was 63 units. This approval included demolition of the north building, which is the smaller building of the two. Under the new proposal that you're looking at this evening, the allowance in the PUD zoning is for 63 townhouse units, the same number of units, but none of these would be apartments. It would be a demolition of both buildings. So the density being requested is the same as it was before, but the existing buildings would come down. Under the new PUD document, it includes the standard conditions of the 35% open space, dark sky lighting, et cetera. The new conditions also allow for, as we stated earlier, demolition of the existing structures. That was approved by the Historic Board in their January meeting. We have the construction of 63 townhomes, so there'll be no apartments on this one. 15,000 square feet of playground park area, and provision for a small memorial park on the property as a memorial to the Lee School. Now, this new PUD includes some specific timeframes to demolish and commence construction. Those timeframes include an 18-month time period to begin construction by pulling and pursuing a building permit. If that action is not taken, then these conditions would become null and void. The reason for the short time period is that the structures have been vacant for years, and as you're aware, they have become a magnet for crime, vagrants, drug deals, things of that nature. At the February 23rd Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission, however, voted unanimously by a vote of 0 to 7 to deny this request. The basis for their denial was, number one, the density was too high. 2, the site should have a better overall design for the units. 3, the recreation and water retention needed to be spread out. 4, traffic would be higher than necessary, and 5, the setbacks on the structures would be close to the road. However, the Planning Commission did agree with the neighborhood that there was a great deal of appreciation for the potential redevelopment of the site. They did note that they did like the new facades, which are in tonight's presentation. They're not in the current zoning. They're in the one that you're looking at tonight. So they like the new facades, and they did appreciate the opportunity to redevelop the site. Staff does recommend, if you choose to approve this project in any form, that you would include those new facades. Tonight, Mr. Tim Cantrell, who is the local representative, I believe is here, for Mr. Barry Mansfield, who is the property owner. If you have any questions, staff will try to answer. Well, Mr. Cantrell.
This Historic Society did meet and grant approval of the demolition.
The Historic Society did, yes, sir.
I missed it.
They did meet and grant that approval.
Okay, we'll hear from the petitioner.
Good evening. Tim Cantrell for the petition for the applicant.
Questions, guys?
I'll jump right in here and lead with. I like the project. I like it's good for downtown. It's time to see this blighted project cleaned up. I've looked at the site plan. I've had feedback from community leaders. There is concern about inadequate parking. They think they support the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation of lower density. So I would like to talk about lowering the density, improving parking, because the concerns were parking not only on the streets in this project. I've heard concerns about possible overflow into the side streets. But having said that, I want to find a way to make this project work. I don't want this land to sit, any longer. I drive by it all the time. I think I started going around it, so I don't have to look at it anymore. But I just want to start with that. I'll probably come back and have more comments. But I was hoping you could speak to that, or see if there's any flexibility here, and maybe you could speak to the Planning and Zoning Commission's concerns on, if there's ways to improve the site plan and the retention.
Yes, sir. So in reference to some of the overflow comments that were made with Planning Commission, we have designed this project to be a rear load. And the whole idea behind a rear load garage is so that we keep all of the traffic and the parking and stuff that would be on West Line, Perkins, and the other streets. All of it would be contained in the interior of the project. I don't know if we have a copy. I mean, I brought a set of plans with me, but everything would be parking, so all of the owners of the property would be driving into the center, and all the garages will be on the interior. That's why we also requested, and staff made comments in our last meeting as well, about having 10-foot setbacks instead of 20. So, because our driveways for these homes, for these townhomes, are going to be on the interior, not on the front streets. It's just going to be yards and a front door. But everything will be parked back in the back. And go ahead, sir.
Do they all have garages? Because
yes, sir,
okay, I read that, but then the conceptuals showed some with garages and some not with garages.
With the conceptual drawings, it gives you an idea of the flavor of the type of architecture and stuff that we're looking at. But all of our garages will be on the rear or interior of the property.
Okay. No, thank you for that clarification.
That along with the setbacks will allow us to have more room for like 2 vehicles to park in a driveway, plus 1 inside the garage with the setbacks.
So in your opinion, you can park 2 cars in the driveway of each?
I believe it would be, it would be with the, let me just check the.
Would that block sidewalks with 2 cars in the driveway?
The sidewalks, I wish we had the actual. I thought we did.
It's 6A. Oh, I don't know the page.
Is it in there?
Yeah. Keep scrolling all the way down, Anna, and you'll see the conceptual and the PUD that's in the packets. A little further.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
What, do you know what page
that's not it.
My computer's down now. I can't get the page number.
I think you're going the wrong way, Anna. There's
20 feet is what the garage, what's the driveway width?
9? No, it should be down.
Anna, go about a third away from the top.
Yeah, no.
There's no way to get through.
Hey, stop right there. Stop on 231. 331. It looks like that's still up. Right there. What's that? 332. What is? Look at 332. Down. What item is that?
That's too far. Yeah.
688. That's it right there. So now go down.
No, it's 6A1.
We need 6A1.
Yeah.
So so you got to go up.
There it is. 193.
Al, you hear that? 193.
Doesn't really get us the right way. So what you're telling me is that we can put one car
in the garage,
and then you can park two in the driveway beside one another, or
no? That would be one in front of the other one. If we have the 10-foot setback on the front, because then we're going from what is permitted right now. We have 18 on the rear and 20-foot setbacks on the front, based on what we previously have in the current SPUD that was already approved by this body. We have front setbacks of 20, rear setbacks of 18. Sides are 20 feet between the buildings, so there's more than one unit obviously in the building. 6 units basically in the buildings.
So I have to ask Dan, is that numbers wise?
This is your stuff. Yeah, that's your.
Okay, on the setbacks, it's 20 on the front.
20 from the sidewalk to the front door? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. It's supposed to be, well, actually from the sidewalk. This is different because it's an interior load. It's designed on the interior. I don't have a focus here, but let me take these.
That should.
It should.
That's the same one.
It should be able to put the 80%, the plus sign.
Go up to
hit that plus sign for me.
The plus sign and zoom in a little bit.
Higher.
This is the same one we presented at the first reading.
Right. Keep going. We're looking for these numbers here. It may not show up well enough, so I have to read off the other one. Okay, just that's good right there. So what you're seeing here is.
Yeah, that's right.
These are 20-foot setbacks from the roadway here into there. These are 18s over on the outside from here and here. Okay.
And the 10 we're talking about is just on Perkins Street and West Line Street.
So the setbacks on what they're looking for there is 10 feet there and 10 feet there.
So does that does that encompass the sidewalk? I mean, so that's 20 overall feet from the road to the front door. Is that what we're saying? Setback?
No. On this side,
where the cars are going to park.
Where the cars are going to park back here, you'd have 20 feet from the house back to
the road.
To the road. Yes.
Okay, so then that's the edge of pavement.
Yes.
Okay, so then we're talking about sidewalks in there, correct?
There will be sidewalks.
Yeah.
Oh, there's sidewalks on the outside, not interior.
There's sidewalks on the
Yeah, there's sidewalks in the interior down the middle.
Okay, so the sidewalk takes up what, 4 feet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we're down to 16 feet. So we're saying from 16 feet from the carport or the garage to the sidewalk, you think we can get 2 cars in there? And that's, what is a parking, what's the length of a parking space out here?
20 feet.
So there's no, yeah.
So even at the 16 feet.
Realistic.
That's
not.
Again, I'll go back to my math. My math may be wrong, but we're trying to take 10 feet and try to change the Perkins and West line by 10 foot. Put that 10 foot in the rear, so we have more room in the rear. Taking that, putting that in the back, so we have the parking. You see what I'm doing? See what I'm asking? We're keeping the traffic because there's no parking anyways.
So the concept is
Perkins Street or West Line as there is. There's no parking spots.
But you're going to be asking people to back out into Perkins.
No, sir. I'm sorry. This is a rear. Every garage is in the rear. It's in the interior. Here's the entrance here. But there's no parking. Everything, we're keeping the traffic in the interior.
Okay, I understand that.
What he's trying to say, through here, you have an entrance here, off of Herndon, an entrance here.
Right.
And then on Lee Street.
Park here, and there's an entrance on Lee Street, and
Right.
those are extra parking spaces, so it holds 2 cars, one in, one behind.
And one in the garage, potentially.
No.
2 cars. But you said 3 earlier. So I'm just trying to understand.
I said we should be able to get 2 on the driveway if we had. If we had, instead of 20-foot setbacks on the front, we moved 10 of that to the rear where the garage is.
If the garage is 20 feet wide,
And there are already 18 back there.
if they're 18, yeah, if
There's already 18 back there.
18 feet in distance, and he's trying to swap the feet in the
Trying to take 20 from the front and put it on the back with the 18, 28 feet plus your garage.
I'm just looking at Dan because he's the man in the planning side. I think the real issue that a lot of these people are going to talk about is density and the traffic problem with where are all the cars going to be. Every one of these families is going to have a minimum of 2, probably 3 cars. And so is there parking for all the residents? That's trying to determine.
I'm not the engineer, but by design, that's the way, that's what the engineers have designed it for.
At least 2.
Yeah.
Minimum of 2 at every resident, at every residence, yes.
Yeah.
There's some additional parking on the northeast.
Yeah, there's 14.
One in the driveway.
Right.
Because it's a single car garage.
That's it.
And there's some parking along the other street.
All right.
Yeah.
Rebuttal from staff. Any other? You have anything else, Dan? Okay, thank you.
Very
Appreciate
good.
it.
Thank you.
So we'll hear from the public. You want to hear from the public first, or you want to? Yeah. We'll have public comment on this, please.
I'm Tom Grizzard, been a resident of Leesburg all my life, a member of St. James Church right across the street. I want to say that, as Commissioner Peterson mentioned, that I'm very much in favor of a project of this type, and this location is a perfect use of this property. However, as presented, the density is way too high. I think the interior design is woefully insufficient. If I could clarify, what I understand them saying is that if I can come to the from the parking, when you come in off the street into here and you pull into the rear loaded garage, which I think is a great idea, you only have 20 feet from the street to the building. So you got one car in a single car garage and the other car right behind it. So in order to get the one out of the garage, you got to move this car first and put it somewhere so you get the other car out of the garage. I live in a community very similar to this, except that we have two spaces outside the garage to park cars. So that, for example, if this were all garage, the garage would be here, driveway here, and you have another parking place here. So you don't have the traffic problem of backing one out to get the other one in. And you're only going to have 20 feet. Well, it's going to be difficult for somebody to pull right up to their garage door without having the rear end of the car hanging out in the street. I think the whole design is woefully insufficient because it doesn't give enough room between the units. Additionally, this is a blind corner right here at Herndon and Perkins, with it's only been 10 feet off the road here and maybe 15 feet off of here. It's difficult to see cars coming down Perkins already, and with a building there, it's going to cause an accident.
Okay.
Also, considering the parking, the resident parking is all up in this corner over here. And I don't believe that somebody that's going to visit somebody in this unit is going to park all the way up there and come down here. They're going to try to park on the street, without a doubt. In my opinion, if some thought had been given to the design of this project, the open space and parking would be interspersed in the interior where the residents are, or where the residences are. Yeah. The distance between the front door and this right here, I think that is 40 feet. Is that right, Dan? I can't really see on this now. It's kind of blurred. But the front door to front door with a street in between is very narrow.
So that's actually
24-foot street and
20 here and 18 here. That's the back door.
20 feet from the street edge to the door, the front door.
Right.
The other thing that concerns me is that all of the, as I mentioned, all of the open space, the retention pond, and the recreation facilities, both playground for all the kids, is all in one space and not interspersed throughout the residences. And I have a concern about how that is going to be the enforcement of the maintenance of those open areas, particularly the playground. And that's right across the street from the church. And if you look at the condition of the property that's been there since they've owned it, their history of maintaining the property is not very good. So there has to be some pretty heavy enforcement activities going on there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Any rebuttal from staff? Oh, we got this.
Hi, I am Linda Workman. My husband and I purchased our house on Herndon in 1996. We had an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 11-month-old. We had our fair share of traffic. I mean, we did. Obviously, over time, it's gotten a lot worse, which you deal with it. It's also a quarter-mile run. Herndon, to me, is like Magnolia. It is a cut-through. People that don't want to get on Main Street cut through Herndon, Magnolia. That's just a given. We're at the end of Herndon, the west end. If you make a left, which you go south on the 12th Street, we have the light. So we get a lot of people, and if you sit out and look, a majority of the people that are heading west on our street make a left. So they go to the light because it's easier to get out. We want to be good neighbors. Lee School is an eyesore. I think it's disgusting that it got to that point. I mean, it was a beautiful building back in the day. It is what it is. It does need to come down. I feel bad for the people that live across from it that are putting money into their homes, and they have to look at that. And we've dealt with our end of the street drugs, the homeless, so I mean, we know what it's about, and it does need to come down. I think the buildings look great. I think it is a good idea. It could be a win-win situation. I don't agree with the whole garage thing because everybody that we personally know that has one garage, it's storage. There's no sheds. So you're not going to use that garage, right? I mean, I drive a Yukon XL. My husband drives a full-size truck. Backing in my carport with him in front of me, we're pushing it to the sidewalk. I mean, there's not a lot of space. So if you have full-size vehicles, and everybody on our street has 2 vehicles. There's a few houses that have 3. If these are 3 bedrooms, even if they're 2 bedrooms, almost everybody has a kid, a brother-in-law, sister-in-law, somebody sleeping on the couch. It doesn't make sense. Again, we are for it. Something needs to be done with that area. It is an eyesore. I think what I saw of the pictures, they do look nice. It does fit in with the area. I'm just concerned. I will die in my house. We love our house. Kelly, the other neighbor, she couldn't make it tonight. She's been there since the beginning of '97. Other families have been there. We have 6 grandkids that come to the house. I don't want them in my front yard with the traffic that we have now. This is a minimum of 126 cars coming back. I don't feel it's feasible. Again, we want to be good neighbors. We all do. I agree, Mr. Grizzard, what he said about pulling out onto Perkins is a nightmare. It is a nightmare, and Kelly could vouch for that. She has seen. I was behind somebody, the car in front of me got T-boned. They never stopped. I really hope that y'all really seriously take that into consideration. It is a good idea. Not 63 units, though. Definitely not 63. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm John O'Kelly. Grant, may I speak on this matter since I'm on planning and zoning?
Yes, sir. You can speak on this.
Okay, thank you. We all agreed with the folks that live in the area, and Kelly, unfortunately, had a wonderful presentation for us, and she's not here tonight. If she had come, I wouldn't have to say anything, but she hit everything, hit the nail on the head. The density was our concern, the traffic and the parking situation, which has already been discussed. But we, as a board, recommended, yes, we want this developed. The density is the biggest issue, which is creating some of the problems that the folks are concerned about. I think with some of that can be solved with maybe spreading this water retention area throughout the entire project, allowing more space between units rather than concentrated all in one location. But regardless, I think our recommendation was the existing zoning prior to, I guess there's I don't know the name of it because it's in a historic zone. You can get an increased density, but I think it allowed 40 units. And we had hoped that the developers would try to go back and make some concessions on the plan, on the design with 40 units or something in between the 63 and 40 that would solve some of these problems. But we want it developed. Everybody wants it developed. I mean, I've resisted wanting to have any of these schools torn down for years, but I see the light. It needs to happen, unfortunately. So please consider that. I think the density is the biggest issue. The concept is wonderful, though. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, any rebuttal from the petitioner?
Tim Cantrell for the applicant. We started this journey back in really 2020, and about that time is when everything kind of went to heck. The commission, planning and zoning, and everybody's been wonderful. The only thing that the applicant is asking for is what was previously approved by all these bodies. And since we now have permission to tear down the south building, we are staying within the same density approvals that we had. And we're not asking for anything additional. We're just asking for what was already previously approved. January, May of 21 is when we did the approval for the 63 units, and it was 49 and 14, 49 townhomes and 14 apartments. So, any other questions I can?
So I came in this meeting, I guess, with the idea of knocking down buildings 7 and 8, making them parking, but hearing from people before the meeting and hearing some of the comments in the meeting, I do understand and respect the comments on, having 2 parking spaces in front of each house. I mean, can we find a way to pull the density back and create, and instead of me knocking down buildings, I don't want to tell you how to design it, but I do want to see the density pulled back in a manner whereby we can create the 2 parking spaces side by side. I mean, it seems like that's workable. And I would, by the way, I'd give up the playground.
Yeah, from what I understand, basically based on the price point that we are within, that we have to get enough units to have enough. Not to, everybody thinks the developer's trying to get rich. He's already in this since 2018 when he bought it. And then he spent a lot of money figuring out what he couldn't do with the South Building, Lee School, finding out what the real condition of the building was. So we're several years into this, quite a bit of money invested.
Yeah. And I feel like the city, I mean, you've heard everybody say, I mean, myself, everybody included, once this developed, I feel like we really helped the developer by allowing both buildings to be knocked down. Mm-hmm. My understanding was that was going to cost a tremendous amount of money, so we gave that up. So I guess, just a little give and take. To me, we're not that far apart.
I don't think we are either.
I don't know how the other commissioners feel about recreation facilities, but yeah, I mean, I know we need green space, we need permeable areas.
I think there's some movement, a little bit of movement. I discussed with planning and zoning about trying to do a little bit more reduction on the playground from 15 and change to 12,000 roughly. Just, we're moving numbers around here is what we're doing. And just like with the frontage, there's no backing out on Perkins and there's no backing out on West Line. There will be no garages and no driveways there. It's all rear load.
And I'm not an engineer. I can't speak to Mr. O'Kelly's comments on swales. I'm looking at Dan Miller. I don't even know if we do that in the city limits. I think I've heard you say we don't typically do that, but I'm grasping for anything to find a way to keep this developer happy and get this project developed.
That's what we're trying to do as well, sir.
I know, and I appreciate your patience with us.
Everything would be curb and gutter within a development at this location.
Okay, that's what I thought you'd say.
Option for swales.
Rather than just knock down buildings, my idea coming in here was knock down buildings 7, 8, create more parking. But I do like the idea that's been presented of, instead of doing that, I do want to see, that would be taking it from 63 to 51 right there. And if you took that math of 51 and just spread this thing out a little bit, I feel like we could accomplish the 2 parking spaces in front of each unit. I'm not a site engineer. I just feel like that's workable.
Right, and that's the point I was trying to make, because with our existing SPUD that we have currently, we're at 48 and 14, right, Dan? 48.
63 total, 14 of those are
yes, sir.
buildings.
So we're already giving up even more, but yes, we needed to remove and do need to remove both of the buildings, but we're already going even further backwards, not just on paper, and making the numbers work on the project. To go to what you're asking about, I don't know how that.
Well, I play with numbers. I'm not going to sit here and do math. I did play with numbers, land cost numbers, building cost numbers. I talked to builders.
I know you did.
Played with market prices on these, and I came up with a pretty good profit around 50 units. I don't want to recite the math on the public records, but it's because I'm not trying to push the developer too hard. I just. This is great for our city. It's great for downtown. I'm just, I guess, pleading with the developer to find a way to work this one out. And I think some good ideas have been presented tonight. If we could just spread it out a little bit. I'm looking at Mr.
I know. So here's my suggestion. And I think it is about density. With all due respect to Mr. Mansfield, he had 2 weeks to come back to this body with a discussion on whether he wanted to reduce densities or not. I think you do need to remember that he does have an approved PUD that calls for rehabbing the old school and knocking down the South Building. So he's got 63 units. I think you can probably bank on that Mr. Mansfield will not execute that PUD and it will expire. So therefore, I think now the ball lies in this body's court, and I don't think you need to re-engineer the site. But I think at this stage, if you guys have a number of what the unit count needs to be, then you should specify that this evening. I would suggest that number is 51. And then if there is a concern about parking, I mean, I think that concern is there. And I think with the architectural feature of this project with one-car garage, it's not going to look right to put two-car parking in front of a house that has a one-car garage. So if that's the case, then I think, and it's not spec'd out in code, because this is an oddball type of development. It's in a PUD, so it's almost more like an apartment complex. So therefore, I think you got to come up with a reasonable number of off-street parking spots. So for example, if you go to 51 units, then 51 times 2 is 102 cars. You're probably going to figure that most of those people are going to park at least one car in the driveway and 0 cars in the garage. So you got to have that capture. So 76 seems to be a reasonable number. So I would suggest that you let Dan review this, you let the engineer put together the plan, and you just spec out that you want certain setback requirements, that you want 51 units, and that you want 76 cars parked, and you want a parking spots. You want 76 spots on site. And then you approve it within those parameters, and you put the onus back on the developer to redo the site plan to give to Dan. And if Mr. Mansfield at that time decides that 51 is not a reasonable number, then he's not going to sign the PUD, and you're back to square one, which is a PUD that's approved that he's probably not going to build. So I don't think you need to dictate to him parking or what buildings to tear down. He's smart. He'll figure it out. But I think that the compromise here between what the Planning and Zoning Board has said, what the folks have said, your math has said that 51 units seems to be about the right number. And 51 units bumps them up into the special density issue, which is within your prerogative to issue.
And I don't want to tell a developer how to do the site, but I will make one more comment, a general comment. I came in here with the idea of building 7 and 8. Now I would withdraw that and say, put the common parking in the middle where it's more convenient to everybody by chopping off, make almost like dead center by chopping off some buildings. That's just one idea, but I may regret saying that. Some of the complaints I've heard is, for example, now the parking's up in the northeast corner. So if it was in the middle, maybe the person, over here on the western boundary might park in that parking lot if it's right across the street. I mean, I have lived in apartments. I've had to park, away from my unit. I hope we can find a way to do it.
He would have been here tonight, but he's on the City of Ocala's council's city committee, so.
I would agree with Commissioner Peterson's comments and Mr. Grizzard's comments as well.
Anything else?
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay. Any more comments? We've got just the PUD the way it exists right now. So is there any movement on our suggestion, any motions anyone would like to make to decrease the overall number to 51 and approve that in the PUD? And then if Mr. Mansfield...
Well, do we want to do that, or do we want to allow the developer a chance to come back with...
I think you need to place the onus on the developer. I think this body needs to say what units you'll accept. You need to make it open-ended in the PUD and let the developer redesign it. And I think that's probably within administrative determination. Do you agree with that? Yes, sir. Okay. And if you start dictating what looks where and blah, 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 that's just going to get too cumbersome. But if you spec out, you want 76 on-lot parking spots.
51
you
units.
Spec out, you want 51 units.
I want parking in the more in the middle of the development.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
I would let him figure it out because then you might get something you might not like before. And or you want to reserve the right to see the modified design.
Okay. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I do want to see the design. I would like that.
So
I guess I was trying to telegraph to the developer
Can
the
they
parking in the
continue
middle.
this, or would we need to rehear it and re-advertise?
To re-advertise.
Okay.
Which means we're delayed 2 meetings. We can't come back next
What's
meeting.
the advertisement? Is it 30 days? Or no, it'd be 10 days, right? Before
10 days.
second.
10 days for second reading.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
But that may not give the developer time.
Yeah, so we could do that.
Yeah, our engineer's right now he's out of the country till next week.
If the commission chooses to decide on certain numbers, as city manager indicated, with the right to reserve to come and review the site plan as an approval, is that what you were saying, Mr. City Manager?
Correct.
Then you could approve a PUD tonight with the understanding that when a site plan comes back in for approval, it will be brought to this body, re-advertised and allowed for public hearing again? Is that what you were saying?
But the timelines are going to be the same as just redoing it, right? We might as well just. At this point, 51 units, 76 parking spaces, and I would like to see the revised site plan.
Each unit would require a minimum 2 parking spaces under the codes.
But they're counting the garages, and we're all saying we believe they're going to be storage.
You're saying extra parking spaces?
No, I guess that's why I was trying to. That's why I was.
And therein lies the argument.
Yes.
The developer is going to say, I'm providing you a garage and I'm providing you a driveway. That's 2. And I'm doing that for every apartment complex. So therefore, he's meeting and he is pejorative.
That's technically meeting the code.
Therefore, the developer's meeting the code. And the 23 lots on there is a bonus. You guys are saying the code in this application doesn't work, even though you're providing a garage and a driveway. Nobody's going to park in that, and there's going to be parking that's sprawled out throughout, which I would suggest is a reasonable counter argument. So you're saying what needs to be done is we need more on-street parking. More on-site parking. And you're pulling a magic number of 76 because that's 75% of the potential 2 cars per unit, because some are going to park in the garage. Most aren't. One is. So you see what I'm saying?
Right now, the PUD says 39 parking spaces. So you're taking 39 to 76, which I like.
Right. Yes. But to get that many on-site parking spots, he's got to lose buildings. If he loses buildings, he loses density.
Yeah, and I'm trying to refrain from telling which buildings, but I've already done it.
I think the easy compromise that where you see the picture is tell him to take down buildings 7 and 8. You know the parking is going to wrap around that corner, and there's a green space and there's retention across the street from the church. So you know what that looks like. If now you start messing with the parking and you start dictating to him, now you open it up to, you might not like the way the buildings, he might be turning buildings around. So, so I would suggest you just knock down 7 and 8 and wrap the parking around it and tell him that's what you want. Or you don't approve it tonight and tell him to bring it back to us with the potential modifications, and he'll bring it back to you if he wants to do it. And if he doesn't, you won't hear from him ever again.
Well, I agree with all that, except I would rather see buildings 4 and 6 go down versus 7, 8, only because they're more in the middle. Sorry, Al.
So I wouldn't even make a motion. Well, do we need? Well, we're going to advertise for it anyway. Yeah. So maybe the suggestion is you deny this, and the developer knows what you want. You want 76 on-street, 76 parking spots.
There could be some procedural issues with the denial, though, in terms of coming back with timing.
So you tell us, Grant, how to.
Yeah, I think maybe tabling it would be an option here to allow them an opportunity to redesign and come back. We've got to
What if they don't wanna come
re-advertise
back?
anyway.
Then he's got an
he's
opportunity to come back, and if he does, why don't you put a two-month window on it?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to
And
give some kind of time frame on coming back.
We would
you could
welcome a 2-month window.
Yeah, but if you're not back in 2 months, because Barry says I want 63.
We're 50% done on this engineering. We're talking about starting all over.
I heard what you said, but Barry might not want to do 51 units. Okay, so you might not get this back. I think you need to give him. I would give him 30.
I like the idea of a time frame on that to
Well,
come
he just
back.
agreed to 60. You don't like 60?
I think you need to put the pressure on Barry.
I would-
He's had 2
He's had
years,
2
and now
years with
we've been over backwards for the developer. I love Barry, and tell Barry I said that. We've been fighting for this project for 2 years.
But I would
And
give, I
now
would give, I would
you
give.
guys.
If he's willing to work with us, I'd give him 60 days. If we can get this thing right, I'd give him 60 days. Yeah,
Can they
just
sunset it?
time to get this thing right.
Yes, I think you can do that. I think you can make that a condition.
So your motion should be to deny the application in 60 days.
Unless.
Unless they return a modified site plan.
That's approved.
Within 60 days.
Yeah, that's approved.
So that would be the motion.
And I'm looking.
And you're okay with that?
And I'm looking at Tim. Are 60 days okay?
I'm listening to Al, and I'm going to say yes.
Okay. I'm trying to help.
I know you are.
Okay.
And we're just trying to abide by what has been approved.
Yeah.
And we've come to a change of opinion.
We have.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mr. Mansfield can build what's approved.
Okay.
Or he can work with us and reduce it so he can knock down both buildings. The ball's in his court. He had an opportunity to bring a modified plan to this meeting. He chose not to.
Fair enough.
Okay, so you got a motion for us, Commissioner Peterson?
I'm going to let Al make that motion. No, I got it. We're going to table it for 60
You're going to
days.
table it for 60 days, and if a modified plan does not come back to the body, then the plan is denied.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Barry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay, do we need to vote on the original motion? No, because we've tabled
We
it.
just tabled it.
You've tabled it.
But we've introduced it, so we don't need to.
I'm sorry, sir.
Do we need to vote on the original motion now?
To table it.
Tabled
No, we
it.
just-
No, I think we've already tabled it. We're good.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's see. Okay, would somebody please introduce item 6A, let's see, where, 6A 2, 3, and 4?
Ask they be read by title only.
6A2, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 34.7 plus minus acres and being generally located south of State Road 44 and west of Whitney Road, lying in Section 19, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 2, and providing an effective date. 6A3, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 34.7 plus minus acres from Lake County Rural to City of Leesburg General Commercial for property generally located south of State Road 44 and west of Whitney Road, lying in Section 19, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A4, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 34.7 plus minus acres from Lake County A Agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow for residential, medical, and commercial mixed-use development for property generally located south of State Road 44 and west of Whitney Road, lying in Section 19, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Andy. We need to move for approval.
Move for approval.
On which one? Separately?
No, all three, and then we vote separate.
Okay.
Okay.
A second.
All right, discussion? Commissioners have any comments? Got anything for?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the property located on the south side of State Road 44 west and west of Whitney Roads near the Sumter County line. The request is changing from Lake County Rural to City of Leesburg General Commercial on the future land use, and the zoning from Lake County Agriculture to City of Leesburg PUD. It's a mixed-use development on the 34.7 plus or minus acres, which consists of 40,000 square feet of commercial uses on the north side closest to State Road 44. And then on the south side, there are 280 multifamily residential units. And then in the middle part of that is medical uses, which would include 150 rooms for assisted living, memory, nursing care, physical rehabilitation, skilled nursing centers, stuff like that. We have our standard architectural standards and landscape buffers, the dark sky lighting, buffers, wetlands preserve, 35% open space. Mr. Ryan Solstice of LPG of Mount Dora is here to answer any questions you may have.
We did get the apartments to the standards of the apartments we approved
On the
street
that
from
was
the
on
hospital.
the parking.
The size.
On the size, I believe we
Size
made
of
that,
the apartments themselves?
Let me check that, but I believe we made that the next day after that meeting. If you'll allow me to check.
Yeah.
If we did not, I can make
Let
sure.
me know, and we'll
Okay,
have the
thank you, sir.
petitioners.
Good evening. Ryan Solstice with LPG, representing HESCO Holdings, LLC. This is a mixed-use development. Dan summed it up pretty nicely, so I'll just run through some of the basics. It's a mixed-use development that has commercial on the frontage of State Road 44. In addition, on the interior, we have a 150-bed assisted living facility, a 120-bed rehabilitation center, and a 120-bed skilled nursing facility. And then at the very south portion of the property down here, we have a 280-unit multifamily complex. We meet all of the parking requirements by code. The development is required, according to the PUD standards, to have 35% open space. Currently, we have 46.7% open space on site. That is with the retention ponds counting, which is allowed by code, but minusing that out, we're still at 39.1% open space on site. We are meeting the 65% ISR requirement as stated in the PUD. All structures built in this PUD will be limited to 35 feet in height. Excuse me. 3 stories, 40 feet in height. There will be 25-foot wetland buffers in accordance with St. John's Water Management District. A 25-foot landscape buffer is on all 4 sides, perimeter, and an 8-foot privacy wall is on the southern boundary. This project is a great mixed-use project. It will meet all traffic concerns as far as concurrency. It does not degrade the level of service even in the projected years of build out. It is a phased project. The first phase is the multifamily development, and then the second phase is the commercial. The developer is not sure yet if the second and third phase will coincide with each other, but at this time is phased over 5 different ones, but there might be some overlap between some of them, but we do know that the first phase will be done first, which is the multifamily. And at this time, I'll entertain any questions from the commission.
Any questions for the petitioner?
I guess after discussion on the last complex, I would just ask, I'm looking at the site plan. Is it the same parking? I mean, 1-car garage, 1 car behind them?
So this is a multifamily complex, so it's utilizing surface parking.
Okay.
And it's meeting the code requirements for that, which is 2 parking spaces.
2 side, okay.
And it's all surface parking on the south here.
Okay.
which is around the exterior.
Okay, and maybe it was in the packet. I just didn't see it. The site plan, I wasn't clear from the site plan, but
Yeah,
I didn't feel like it was fair to the last developer to beat up on him on that and then just sit here and just rubber stamp this one
Sure.
without fully understanding the parking.
Sure, it's all surface parking. At this time, there are no garages proposed. You'll see if you look closely on, you'll have your drive aisles that around the perimeter of the multifamily complex.
So this is an apartment complex?
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
I'm sorry.
townhomes.
I'm sorry.
It's not fee simple. They are
Yes.
apartments.
Yeah, there's different definitions of multifamily. I apologize. Okay,
That's
thank you.
all right.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll take public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we do have a timer. Thank you.
Danny McQuillan. So all the ingress and egress to this complex is going to be on 44?
That's correct, sir.
As FDOT talked about as far as stoplights, we met a warrant about 5-6 years ago where we should have had a stoplight right near where you're talking. Has that been addressed yet? Sorry.
It has not yet. The traffic study did not indicate yet that a traffic light would be warranted at this time, but there is that potential once FDOT reviews the entire site plan.
So if we're talking, and you said 280 multifamily?
Correct, units.
So we're talking an extra 560 cars being put out on 44, where that's 55 miles an hour right now. And that's an awful lot of additional traffic if we don't have some kind of, I guess, commitment from FDOT as to how they're going to manage it. The other thing I see on here, and it's traditional, unfortunately, in Florida, there's no turn lanes. In other words, if somebody's going east on 44 right now, there's no turn lanes into that community, which means anybody coming eastbound on 44 is going to come to a 5 mile an hour turn, which is going to back all that traffic up on 44. We've already got the semis coming down there, to all that. So I think the roads and all that type of thing need to be looked at a little bit more in depth as opposed to, like I said, stopping to make a right-hand turn in a 55 mile an hour speed zone. Thank you.
Sir, could you give us your name again for the record?
Denny, his first name McQuillan, McQuillan. Thank you.
Other public comment?
I'm Elizabeth Reed. Thank you all for being here again. So the cars, initially we were told that the apartments would be allowed 1.5 cars. Has it now become 2 cars?
The plan as shown more than meets the requirement based on the different types of number of bedrooms per parking spaces for each unit. Nothing has changed.
Okay. Just saying. And Mr. McQuillan is absolutely correct about the traffic, the heavy truck traffic on 44. If you're going to start making right-hand turns with a semi behind you, good luck. I saw an accident this morning, and it had nothing to do with a tractor trailer, and it had nothing to do with, actually, it was just the beginning of rush hour. It's hard out there, and nobody's paying attention that this is difficult, and it's going to be hazardous to people. You're putting in all these extra cars. Plus the stop and go, the commercial traffic, the food trucks going to the medical centers, the ambulances. I don't know as if anybody has factored this in to their thinking. It meets the codes, yes, but I think the reality is far different than the code. Thanks.
Okay. Any other public comment?
My name is Mike Tyson. I live at 406 Grand Vista Trail in the Pembroke subdivision, which would be basically right across from where this development is going. I personally have no qualms about the buildings and all that sort of stuff. My main concern, and I think the concern of the majority of the people in the Pembroke subdivision, which are 1,200 homes, is the safety and the traffic access. There's a development just out of our back gate off of Whitney Road where the fire station is that was a developer started it and it kind of came to a halt. The roads are in. Someday, eventually, we know that's going to be developed. Whitney Road is getting used more and more now by other traffic because there's more traffic going down in the back part of us across from, what is it? What's the name of that subdivision? Behind us. Yeah, Wingspread. There's another subdivision going on there. So you're going to see more traffic coming that way. And right now, when we go out the main gate by us, it is difficult, even though they put in that 1,200 strip where you make a right turn and you got to make a left turn if you want to go east. The traffic is just really, really picking up, and there's more and more traffic coming down Whitney Road and on east on 44. Just next to Whitney, from what I was told, there's a sports center that's going to be going up, a sports center that's downtown Leesburg that's going to relocate and build out in that area. It's going to be in a 4-stage situation, and so eventually that's going to bring more traffic. So my main concern is when all this is done, that they consider proper street stoplight or something for the residents of Pembroke to be able to get in and out of there. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? So do we have any? Oh, wait. Yeah.
My name is Cynthia Ann Lukens. I live at 434 Grand Vista Trail, Leesburg, which is part of Pembroke Fairways. I come from New Jersey. We are tightly, highly regulated in every way, shape, and form. From a roadway, 44 is abysmal. You have most of the residents that live at Grand Vista, that live in Pembroke, that are over the age of 65. I am now too. Their vision, their capability. What you're asking with this, and I have no problem with commercial development. I've dealt with developers such as you up north. The roadway needs to be considered now. In the 20 years that I have bought my mother's house, I have watched 44 get much more traffic, understandably. We have Brownwood, wasn't there before. We have all the construction of Lake Deaton Plaza. We didn't have that before. But what we still have is a distribution center, maybe not a mile from our front gate, where tractor trailers come hauling ass, pardon my French, down 44. They're in third gear by the time they get to our entrance. So what you're now asking us to do at Pembroke Fairways is, if we do want to come back to this lovely city of Leesburg, we will now have to jump over 2 lanes of traffic, get in our little turn lane, make what I think in New Jersey would be completely illegal, a U-turn onto another 2-lane highway, take our luck, because now I have all this commercial construction to deal with, coming in, coming out, going. I speak on behalf of the people in Pembroke Fairways, we will never be able to make a U-turn. I kayak. I have a Ford Explorer. I have a trailer. If at 7 a.m. we wish to come out of the entrance of Pembroke to say, I don't know, we're going to go to Mount Dora, we'll never make that U-turn, because now we've got morning traffic flying in every which direction. But again, I went across 2 lanes of highway to make a U-turn. In a tractor trailer could never make a U-turn in your turn lane. So I don't see this addressed here. And I've learned in the past, it's like tug of war. Get in the game before the mud is put in. because then you get nothing. Thank you.
Shirley Gaylord. I live in Pembroke as well. I've been there 16 years, and I have to tell you, you might have told a little story about the traffic out there. The speed limit, well, they have signs that have 55 on them, but people read them as 70. And that's about the average speed limit of the traffic out there. And it is very hard for us to do. We went and fought for a traffic signal to be put there. How many years ago was that? 7 years ago? Yeah. And we had our own problems why that wasn't happening. But it certainly would be very good. In fact, a lot of us thought that the traffic was going to come from this off of Whitney Road, but it is not. You don't have any entrance or exits there. Okay. That's why some of us are not here, because they're all thinking this is going to come off of Whitney instead of coming directly off 44. That is going to make for a hard time, a very hard time for people. And I would feel sorry for anybody moving in there. We're glad to have them as neighbors, but we just want to be able to keep them and to keep us alive as well. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Anything else from staff?
No, sir. Thank you.
Question for staff. There was a comment, these don't have accel or deceleration lanes?
Each one of these that you see here, either on the screen or here, when it comes to a zoning hearing, is sent to either Lake County or the state DOT or both, every single time. So when you don't necessarily see a turn lane here, it's often because they don't know how far or how long they want that turn lane to be in there. It's more confusing to put them in there and then have to go back and change it later than to leave them out.
So it's your belief that there will be...
I absolutely believe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir.
No, I mean, that's...
There'll have to be a right turn lane coming in here. Now, I'm not the DOT and I'm not Lake County, but that's my experience. And as you see, I've been here 20 years tonight. So,
right.
Terms. 2 times. But those are legitimate concerns.
Yes.
We don't want anyone getting killed out there, obviously. Having this might up the warrants, and I couldn't technically define warrant properly, but it's more than just someone getting killed. It's accidents. It means a lot of different things, and would accelerate the process of getting a light.
Right.
And that may not sound like what the residents want to hear, but that is true. I believe it'll happen. There are existing turn lanes to get in left going each direction. Those may, according to DOT or Lake County, have to be improved as well, if they are not fully up to standard. So these are most certainly conceptual, because in order to have them reviewed and brought to every single city spec, no one's going to spend the thousands of dollars to get it to a zoning hearing first as a concept.
Okay.
But thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Any other comments from the petitioner?
Just a few last comments. The traffic study done by traffic and mobility consultants did indicate that on the base year of 2025 that the adopted level of service would be maintained. In the year 2030, they would be maintained. And I just want to re-echo the sentiment that Dan brought up, is that this development will help the people in Pembroke, the residents of Pembroke, get that traffic light. It might not be the catalyst of this development, might not be it, but it will certainly push that bar for them of getting a traffic light at that intersection.
Okay. I think they know this, but I just want to make sure they're clear that that's a state issue, not a City of Leesburg issue.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's State Road 44.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners?
I just was hoping to see acceleration decel lanes, so I appreciate your comments, Dan.
You can come up.
And like I said, we did have a warrant 6-7 years ago. Why is stoplight didn't go in, a lot of things. The other piece I failed to mention is we're talking 450 beds for assisted living, rehab. Do you have the map back up? So what we have here out on the 44 means everybody that's leaving out of this community is going to have to make a right-hand turn.
Correct.
Okay, so not only we got 560 cars, we've got all the other emergency vehicles, all the other people that are visiting these residents, that kind of thing, and they have to make a right-hand turn to go back out towards 75. And I'm not sure there's a lot of people that are going to be in here. They're going to be going towards Leesburg. They're most likely going to be going back out west, more towards the villages, more towards where the jobs are and all of that kind of thing. So it's going to compound it with having to make all right-hand turns and then do those directional diverters. And I appreciate the experience. I appreciate what was said about it's going to happen. But I can tell you, I haven't been here for 20 years in Florida. There's a whole lot of right-hand turns that don't ever get put in where they should be, and especially in 55-mile-an-hour speed limit zones. If that speed limit was 35, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask one question?
Come to the podium, please.
Given that it is a state highway, with all of the experience that I'm looking in front of, what would be your recommendation for our community to take its next action? Would it be? Now we had the Florida DOT. I recorded them on my iPad. I literally had a man from Florida DOT tell me that traffic lights cause accidents. My hand to God, I can play it for you. So what would be your recommendation? I have a solicitor or an attorney. Sorry.
Dan, would you address that, please?
I have another attorney. No. All right, I won't put you in that list. But as a compliment, what would be, that way we'll save all of you.
Okay, Dan's going to answer your question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
This may sound a little bit old, but the best next step is to talk with Lake County Public Works and with FDOT. There's been some turnover in FDOT, and hopefully that's been for the positive. But the first place to go is to work with FDOT.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
In particular, name-wise?
I'll try to find out for you if you leave me a copy.
I certainly will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I apologize.
Okay. Okay, so we now need to vote on each of the items individually.
Yes, sir, that's right.
So we'll start with 6A2. We've already introduced them. They've been approved, so we'll roll call 6A2.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. 6A3, roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. And 6A4.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. If someone would please introduce, let's see, this is 6A5, 6, and 7.
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
6A5, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 11 plus minus acres and being generally located west of Haywood Worm Farm Road and north of Rogers Industrial Park Road, lying in Section 14, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 3, and providing an effective date. 6A6, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 11 plus minus acres from Lake County Industrial to City of Leesburg Industrial, for a property generally located west of Haywood Worm Farm Road and north of Rogers Industrial Park Road, lying in Section 14, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A7, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 11 plus minus acres from Lake County HM Heavy Industrial to City of Leesburg M1 Industrial for a property generally located west of Haywood Worm Farm Road and north of Rogers Industrial Park Road, lying in Section 14, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Andy. I think everybody's been sworn in.
Yes.
You did that?
Yes, sir. That's right.
Okay. So could we get a motion to?
Move for approval.
There you go.
Second.
Discussion. Do we have a staff presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a proposal for an industrial use on an 11-acre property, which is generally located west of Haywood Worm Farm Road and north of Rogers Industrial Park Road. It's a request to annex and then future land use from Lake County Industrial to City of Leesburg Industrial, and a zoning that would go from Lake County Heavy Industrial to City of Leesburg M1 Industrial. It's a standard rezoning, so there are no specific conditions as you would see in a PUD. The proposed use is a simple self-service storage industrial type facility. And that's it. Thank you.
The petitioner have any comments?
Ryan Solstice with LPG. This is just a self-storage, industrial, de-industrial, future land use and rezoning. We're coming into the city of Leesburg to utilize utilities and develop within the city as it should be. We're doing outdoor and RV boat storage, indoor self-storage, and some contractor flex space for individuals like plumbers and electricians.
Okay. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. Anything else from staff?
No, sir.
Any comments from commissioners? All right, let's vote on 6A5.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. 6A6.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. And 6A7.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Would someone please introduce item 6A8?
Introduce ask be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending future land use element policy 1.1.6 to remove references to project acreage and the project boundary map, as well as to clarify that town centers are mixed-use centers, amending the villages of Westlake project boundary to reflect the newly added lands, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg by changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 18.34 plus minus acres from institutional to age-restricted development for a property located south of County Road 470 and east of the Florida Turnpike, lying in Section 17, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Eastman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Somebody please introduce 6A9.
Ask be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 18.34 plus minus acres from P Public to ARD, Age Restricted Development, for a property generally located south of County Road 470 and east of the Florida Turnpike, lying in Section 17, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Any public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Someone please introduce 6A10.
Ask you by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, to modify the Chapter 163 Development Agreement between the villages of Westlake Area A for the development of approximately 1,400 acres, providing a binding agreement and amendments for long-term development, including but not limited to density, intensity, land uses, and process, approving development rights and land development regulations for property generally located near Florida's Turnpike, the Lake and Sumter County line, and north of County Road 470, as legally described in Sections 6, 7, 8, 9, and 16, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Any public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Someone please introduce 6A11.
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, to modify the Chapter 163 Development Agreement between the Village of Westlake Area B for the development of approximately 1,230 acres, providing a binding agreement and amendments for long-term development, including but not limited to density, intensity, land uses, and process, approving development rights and land development regulations for property generally located near Florida's Turnpike, the Lake and Sumter County line, and east and west of County Road 48, as legally described in Section 31, Township 20 South, Range 24 East, and Sections 5, 6, and 7, Township 21 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion? Public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Someone please introduce 6B1.
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, establishing the Bella Viva at Whispering Hills Community Development District pursuant to Chapter 190 Florida statutes, providing for authority and power of the district, providing for the Board of Supervisors of the district, providing for the district budget, providing for functions of the district, providing for miscellaneous provisions, and providing an effective date.
Any discussion? First reading, so it will lay over. Any questions or? All right. Someone please introduce, do we have a definite date on that, Andy? Or,
March 27th.
Okay, so that will lay over to March 27th. So would someone please introduce 6B2?
Introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 15.8 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow for mixed uses limited to light commercial and self-storage for property generally located east of U.S. Highway 441 and west of Sleepy Hollow Road, lying in Section 20, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Okay. Comments from commissioners? Dan, I did have a question on this. This was an existing PUD that ran out, and now is it the same?
It's actually not the same. The original PUD came under, I believe it was Ordinance 0935 or something. It's been a long time. And they were allowed at that point to do professional and medical offices. The majority of this property is wetlands, almost the entirety of the property. It's just a small, hardwood swamp, maybe 2 acres that are usable. So this new PUD, what it does is basically asking for mini storage in the types of uses that will support the surrounding residential development. And mini storage is one way to use that property because it's not really conducive to, we're going to allow, for example, single family and things like that in there, but most likely it'll be a mini storage to support the surrounding uses.
So their only access is off of Sleepy Hollow, too?
Yes, sir.
At a very narrow juncture of that road.
That is correct. It's a narrow strip of roadway all the way back, and then you have this narrow strip of land. They'll fence it off and clean it up.
But it'll be close to 441. Is that where the buildable property is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's be closer to 441. It's the closest part of this property that's not wetlands.
Yeah. Any other questions? Public comment? Roll call?
First reading.
Oh, it's first reading. Sorry about that. Get in a habit. Sorry about that. Okay. Somebody please introduce. What's that?
Question on when that item might come back to Commission, Mr. Mayor.
March 27th.
March 27th, yes, ma'am.
All righty. Somebody please introduce items, let's see, we are 6B, 3, 4, and 5.
Introduce has to be read by title only.
Uh, 6B3, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing 22 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg Industrial and Conservation to City of Leesburg General Commercial and Conservation for property generally located east of Executive Boulevard and north of West Main Street, lying in Section 29, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6B4, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately 22 plus minus acres from City of Leesburg M1 Industrial to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development for a property generally located east of Executive Boulevard and north of West Main Street, lying in Section 29, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 625.
Oh, it is not on there, yeah. It's
Yeah.
separate.
So it's just
Okay.
the two, okay.
So just the two, yeah.
All right.
That'll be good. Okay. Discussion on those items? Anybody have questions? This will lay over until
March 27th.
March 27th. Any public comment on this? Okay. We'll rehear that on the 27th. Somebody please introduce 6B5.
Introduce and has to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending City of Leesburg Ordinance 2021-37 to grant a non-exclusive, non-potable water irrigation utility franchise to the Wildwood Utility Dependent District, its successors and assigns, granting such franchise for a period of 40 years to construct, own, operate, and maintain certain services and facilities to serve areas within and adjacent to the village's age-restricted development, providing for conflict and severability, and providing an effective date.
Okay, this item's going to lay over till the
27th.
Also the 27th. Okay. Any comments from the commission on this? Any public comment? Okay, this item will lay over till the 27th. We have no routine items. Informational reports, there are none. Do we have any city attorney items?
Yes, sir. Just wanted to clarify something relating to the treasure trove procedures that we had before us at the last meeting. So we had a little bit of an issue here and maybe some confusion about procedures, so I just really wanted to clarify that for everyone. So when you're dealing with a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment like Treasure Trove, you're required to hold two public hearings. After the first public hearing, the proposed amendment is transmitted to the state agency for them to review the proposed amendment, comment on the amendment. Once they send the comments to the city, then there's 180 days from that point to hold your second hearing. So with Treasure Trove at our last meeting, the direction was to send it back to Planning Commission. Doing that, though, is going to put us up against or actually would put us past the 180 days to bring that back to Commission. So the good news in the statute, though, is it allows the city, or it allows an extension of the 180 days. Basically, if the city and the applicant are agreeable, then they just send notice to the department, any affected parties who commented, and any of the state agencies, just notify them of the extension, and then the extension is granted. So, last time there was some thought that maybe we had to start all the way over, do first reading again, go through the whole thing. That does not appear to be the case as long as we send notice to the department and the affected parties that an extension has been agreed upon. So I don't necessarily need any kind of formal vote, but I just want to confirm with the body here that everyone's generally agreeable to this extension concept, so they could go back through planning, come back without having to re-advertise everything.
Yes.
All right, and we were thinking maybe August or September. I think the projection would be coming back to commission maybe late May or early June. So we were thinking maybe August or September, just to build time in case there were any issues, so we don't have to ask again or request another.
And why so long?
For August or September?
Yeah, it just seemed like a long
No, I was just thinking in case something went sidetracked, if there was a continuance, if it couldn't get to planning and zoning in April. I think this was all sort of based on a projection of, and it doesn't, as a practical matter, we're not saying that the hearing will, again, it doesn't matter to me. It was just a suggestion.
I was trying to learn something. I thought it'd go next P&Z commission and come right back to us, I guess. So I thought it'd be faster.
I don't know that it'll. Dan, do you have any ideas on the
Our plan
timing?
was to take it to the April Planning Commission meeting. The March is coming up next week, so there was no time to do all the functions that required to get that on there. But it is our plan to take it to April and then move it forwards, like Mr. Watson just said, probably in May when you'll see it again.
Okay, that's fine. I thought here in August, September. That's like,
no, the suggestion was just to put that timeline to the department so that it sort of resets our clock to get the second hearing done.
Make sure we get it by then.
That's right. Yes,
okay, I misunderstood you. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir. All right, thank you. That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Grant. City manager items.
I have no items for you.
What? Roll call.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Nothing.
Commissioner Reisman?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Berry?
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Burry?
Nothing tonight. Wow. Move for adjournment.